Welcome. No. We got Brandon, Punk with the Camera, and April, Apes of the State, in the house.
Whoop,
Thanks for coming through, y'all.
Ooh.
So let's get into it dry. Jump right in. How did y'all link up? I know you're you're traveling around making your documentary, and
so
that
yeah,
brought you over here.
I met April. It was kind of funny because I'd never heard any of her music, and I actually recently just told her the story. But a lot of the people who come on our YouTube channel, we have this segment called DIY Sessions, and apparently people really like it because it's a lot of people have constantly kept up with it. And she messaged our Facebook page one day, which is probably the quickest way to reach us because I have on Facebook, it tells you your message response rate, and I'm like, oh man, I better answer these really quick. But anyway, she messaged me one day, and she was like, hey, I play in this band, here's our band camp, these are the days we might be coming to town, can we do something? And it was pretty early on into the sessions, and we were all available because we weren't going to school as much, so I was like, yeah, let's do it. I talked to McKenna, who is the other half of everything that we do, and I was like, hey, are you free this day? And she's like, yeah, and we set it up. And I remember I listened to the band camp, and at first I wasn't super impressed, but I think it was just because I was so busy.
Harsh.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest. Yeah. Love you.
That's
April.
okay. I wasn't too impressed with your YouTube work either.
We're both actually terrible.
Firing shots back and forth.
But we came in and we finally did everything, and I remember I kept getting distracted filming because I was like, shit, this is actually really fucking amazing. Oh, can I curse on this? I know.
Of course.
Awesome.
Please.
Fuck, fuckity fuck,
insist.
back. All right. Potty mouth hour 24/7. And we met up with her, and we did the videos, and I fell in love with all her stuff, and I have every form of merch they've ever purchased. I was telling her one time, I was like, hey, I've got a vinyl, and I've got a tape, and I got a CD, I got everything. And it just went from there. We just got really stoked by working together and fell in love with their music, and that's
Is that true, April?
Yeah. Well, I stalked Punk with the Camera because We the Heathens and Suburbanists went through on their tour and did. They were 3 weeks ahead of us, so their videos came out right as we were about to leave for our tour. And I was like, "Who's this guy? He's in Houston making these videos. I need to find them and make one for Apes of the State." So.
Nice, good connect.
Yeah.
So those DIY sessions, they're just recorded in different locations, wherever?
No, it's all at... So, when I was in high school, because I just turned 21, I'm pretty young for the scene, I guess, but when I was in high school, I had my really good friend McKenna, and I didn't know a lot of people when it came to people who wanted to do what I do, and it was really hard because everybody wanted to be in a band, but nobody wanted to film. And so I went to my high school, and it was the only one that had an okay film program that let you check out stuff on the weekends, and I constantly learned. I always had this concept of oh, I could do some of these things I see on YouTube. And I used to watch my friend Alec from A Fistful of Vinyl stuff all the time, and then I'd watch Audio Tree, and I noticed that there was not too many of these sessions that really hindered to these lower indie level bands, because you get some of these the really big poppy bands who play on these really nice, just beautiful freaking
Austin City Limits or something.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful session, and it turns out amazing. And then you've got some of these other ones that are you could tell they use just the camera audio. And I was sitting there as somebody who makes films, and I was like, I could do this so much better. And there's nothing in Houston. I feel like if we started to do it, we would get people inspired to make stuff, and it would allow me to get better at stuff. And funny enough, McKenna was not the first person for DIY sessions. The first episode was some hardcore band, right? And it was just they were in town, they were available, and it was my buddy Jared from high school. And it worked out, but Jared was not dedicated enough, and then I was just back to square one, man, I don't know anyone. How is this gonna work out? And eventually I just started hanging out with McKenna. She, for the longest time, I thought she hated me, but it's just because she's very flat-faced about anything. She doesn't show emotions at all, but she was
cool.
Super into it, and we just clicked. And when we come together with what I do with filmmaking and how she helps me out with it too, and then all of the mixing she does, it's just a beautiful team. And I'm just rambling at this point.
No, it's good stuff, man. So when did you record your session together then?
July 20 2016.
Was it in the summer?
Yeah, it was in the summertime.
So it's about a year ago.
Yeah.
Not this past summer, the one
No,
before.
the one before, yeah.
And that was your first time meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just showed up at his house.
Yeah, we're like on the north outskirts of Houston, and I kind of have my place set up to where I stay with my dad's, and he's a carpenter and a master craftsman of everything, and he's always taught me like you can do whatever you do if you can build it. So there was this house when we bought the property for like dirt cheap. It was, I think he paid $19,000 for an acre of land that had an abandoned house on it, and he built a house in 2 weeks, and then he built a shop in a week, and he built all these because he's been doing construction for 20 years, and he has the materials and the know-how, and so eventually, like we were like 6 months into living there, and I was sharing a 2-bedroom house with my sister. And it wasn't working out, sibling rivalry at a young age, and so I told my dad, I was like, hey, we got this one car garage that you're storing this car you're never gonna restore. Like, if I come up with the schematics and I come up with like can we build this into a room? And it was like when I was a freshman in high school, and I really wanted to be in a band, so my dad like helped me build this thing into a room, so that way I wasn't always bickering with my sister about like, give me that half of that side of the room, and it was just stupid sibling
Brady
rivalry.
Bunch style.
Yeah, and the room was really well insulated to where I had this band in high school that was terrible, like any other band was, and we would play full blast at 4 a.m. with like PA systems and half stacks and all this crazy stuff, and eventually like that just died off, and I let it be there for like 2 years, and eventually I started doing DIY sessions, and I'm like, okay, I've now made this like a little hub where people can crash out on tour if they want to, as long as they're respectable. And yeah, it's a really cute room. It's super big, but there's like a vocal booth and a big couch, so it looks tiny, but I mean, we've housed like 10 people there once.
Neat. April, what was it like performing like live but being recorded, and you knew like doing a show almost that was gonna just keep being seen over and over again versus just doing a show in front of people? Like,
well, at that point in the tour, we were like, that day that we actually did that session was probably the most tired that me and Dan have ever been in our lives, I think.
Ever?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think it was like one of the most tiredest days of our lives, because it was like probably the midway point of our tour, and like it was a little rough the like days before that, so we were just like exhausted, and we were like, let's just do this. Like, I think we actually even looked tired in the video, like looking at it, I'm like, wow, I look tired in that.
authentic.
Yeah. But we record our album, we record live when we make our albums and stuff like that, so I'm kind of used to that. It was kind of like the same thing, just the camera was there, and it didn't even really make any difference. I didn't think that they would get seen as much as they did, though, which is cool.
They're huge.
I will say, like, people get super nervous, like they're super about it sometimes, and I think
Cameras are weird, dude.
yeah, so many people get uncomfortable and nervous, and they're like, oh god, we're actually playing.
Mics are a little weird. Cameras are really weird. But I did pick up on that because in the intro of your album is like the proof kind of that it was all done live as a band. And I thought it made me crack up because he's like, I don't want to play that with you. And you're like, oh, okay. That's cool. So did a lot of it come together like that, recording? What's the new record called? It's called The City's Not Big Enough.
The City Isn't Big Enough, yeah.
City Isn't Big Enough. And that was my favorite track on it, the title track.
Really?
Yeah, I was doing a little sheetrock work myself this morning, and I was like, to the next one. right away in my head, man. Yeah, it's cool. So like doing that session, it felt like just any other recording session
absolutely.
for y'all.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the story of that album was amazing. If you want to tell it,
What story?
of how it took like 48 hours, the whole album.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, we recorded it into 12-hour sessions, so over a weekend. It was
Wow.
a Saturday and Sunday. Like everything was recorded then. We did like maybe one day where we went back to the studio. Who's actually a guy around here named Mike Fisher. Flux Rad Recordings.
Okay.
It was in his like basement, and we did like some overdubs one day, but that was it. Like everything was done in those 2 days. So
what about those? I'm sorry. What about those violin stabs in and it's like the first track, right? The ting ting. You know what I'm talking about? Ting ting. Was that live or was that an overdub?
Everything was live.
Wow.
Yeah, the backbones of pretty much every single song is live. Like, the only thing I could think that we overdub was like some very minimal bass parts, and in Plate Glass Apology on the version on the record, there's like actually an omnichord in that song. It's like a.
What is that?
It's like a.
That little white box.
Yeah, it's like a synthesizer that it was kind of like a toy, but it turned into a cool instrument. Flight of the Conchords uses them live, I think, in their live show.
Oh, awesome.
It basically has every chord as a button, and you could just press it, and we ran it through an overdrive pedal. So there's like a part of that song that kind of sounds like a guitar, but it's actually an omnichord. So we overdubbed that. I think that's pretty much like the only overdubs.
You know, that reminds me, we used one of those too in Mad Conductor, but it was just a sample like package at this point. We didn't have the actual toy. It was called an Optagon.
Okay.
And it was like a little piano, a little plastic piano, and there would be like little funk loops. So you'd hit the C and it'd go, and then you hit the E and it'd be like, so you'd be like, you know what I mean? And make little songs like just with those. And I loved that thing, and I was like, Dan, more Optagon, more. And he was like, you don't want to overuse the Optagon, okay? You know, like, keep it sacred.
Yeah, it
Like,
appears
cool.
twice on that album in Cats and Heat and Plate Glass, and then we use it when we use it when we tour. We didn't use it this past one, but the one before that. So last summer when we met you, we were using the omnichord on pretty much every show.
Where did you score that?
Dan, who's the mandolin player, he found it in the trash. He worked at a high school.
Dumpster finds.
He worked at a high school doing like contractor stuff,
That's
and
awesome.
The music teacher like was throwing it out because they were like, "Oh, this is
What a score.
a piece of junk." They said they used it once to play like "Happy Birthday" or something like that, and then they were like, "This is junk." And then he grabbed it and looked it up online, and it was like worth $800 used.
Wow.
So we were like, "Yeah, we're gonna hold on to that."
Yeah, I mentioned those like violin stabs because they really stuck out to me because it did like two things. It made me almost kind of feel like Mario. And that's some of my favorite music, the like Mario music. I really love it. And it sounded like almost synthy, but it also gave the song kind of like a hip hop quality, which I love. I love hip hop. It gave it like a steady, like I could just hear in my head was you know what I mean?
Yeah, that song is.
Really
You're
stuck
talking
out
about
to me.
Sober Intentions, right? The first song on the album.
First track. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a super percussive song to begin with. So
Yeah, it's cool.
But also on the album, the violin player Molly, she used an electric violin, so it was DI. So that might be part of the reason why it sounds like that.
Great. I
Yeah.
love the sound of it. Yeah. So now y'all two are working together on. You already have a music video out that you made, right?
Yeah, we're
Brandon?
working on number 2.
You're
For
working
Sober
on the second
Intentions,
one.
now we're doing one for Bill Collectors.
She was joking about it the other day. She's like, maybe we should just like do each music video in order of the album.
Yeah, because that's what we started doing
That'd be
accidentally.
great.
Like we did Sober Intentions over the summer while we were in Denver for Compost Heap Fest.
Yeah,
we were
'cause-
just like there for an extra day.
Yeah.
And Brandon, I was like, "You're gonna be there. Let's make a music video." No plan at all. We literally did that music video in like 2 hours.
No, it was like it only
An hour
took
and a
2
half.
hours because we lost the cat.
Oh yeah.
It would have been done in 50 minutes it was my fault. I let the cat out.
I hope that whoever that our friend's house doesn't listen to this because they still don't know about that.
Well,
We found the cat.
The cat
it's
is okay.
Lost the cat. There was a panic. You had to
Yeah,
find
the cat escaped while we were filming. We were like looking all over the neighborhood for it.
I left
When we found it, it was actually under the bed and not. It didn't even run away at all.
Dude,
It was
That's so
perfectly
crazy.
fine. Well, because there was going to be an alley scene, like so you can see the alley scene in the beginning of the video where April pops out of the garbage, but it was supposed to like I don't know. We're supposed to do more than that, and we're supposed to do some stuff back there, but like we needed to shoot everything and be back in time for Compost Heap, so that way it wasn't disrespectful to the bands, because I was at Compost Heap to take photos and be a part of it. I remember like the first day at Compost Heap. What
is Compost Heap?
It is a really cool DIY run festival that's like super. They're just accepting, you
Queer,
know?
POC
super,
centered,
yeah, super queer, super
femme-centered,
pop, super
yeah.
femme. But it was just a really cool festival. But at that time, I was at my halfway point, like I am right now. Like sometimes I'll just leave for a month, and I was in California before that, just going up and down, working on a We the Heathens music video, as well as Moon Bandits and Dogtooth and Nail. Actually, all of those have come out by the We the Heathens. But like I was so strained. It was like 8-hour drives here and no days off, and so like I came into Compost and I was like nodding off almost. But like
Man, you guys are tired.
Yeah. But so the whole thing was we filmed the entire video in like 2 hours, and we made it back in time. I think we saw Davey Dynamite was about to
that's
go
why we wanted to make it for Davey. Yeah,
Davey's
Davey
so
Dynamite.
good. Holy
He's the
shit.
best.
Cool. Shout out to
I'm listening to his
Dynamite.
CD in the car right now, actually.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
bought.
good.
That was the first one of the first vinyls I ever bought was this Holy Shit vinyl, and there was so much like argument over the photo on the thing. There's this. It's just him standing in a field, but there's this guitar that's like 10 feet in the air, and we're like, did he throw that, or is it shopped?
Did he? Did you get the answer to that?
I think it's shopped.
Oh,
I think he
okay.
said that it was shopped. But I was like, if it was thrown and the guitar wasn't destroyed and all that.
But y'all work pretty quickly. Album in one weekend, a music video just in a break from a photo shoot.
Yeah.
Or taking pictures at the show. I envy that. I think it's awesome, like, when people have the confidence to just, like, put something together, put it out. I'm always, like, pouring over it, add in more phaser, more take the phaser off. Like,
Yeah.
That's how I write music, too.
Like, just write it out.
Usually when I write a song that actually is a good song, I wrote it in like an hour. Like pretty much everything on that album except for Timeline is like one of the only songs that took me like over like a week to write. But pretty much everything else was written in like a couple,
Wow.
like an hour or like a couple nights.
I was going to say that I almost always have music videos done under 24 hours, including editing. Like we did Escape from the Zoo was, to this date, probably one of the most fun I've ever had shooting a music video. And I think Jesse, he told his dad that at the same time, and he always reminds me of it. I'm like, aw. But like we came out at like 5 p.m. and we shot for like 10 hours, and then I went home and I was so excited that I was like, oh, I'm working on my friend's music video, and at the same time we're also recording their album. And I was just like, oh, and I literally didn't sleep. I just worked 10 hours and I made a cut of the film and showed him in the morning. I was like, okay, all we have to do is the green screen stuff and we're done. And so I started, shot, edited, and had the whole video completed in a weekend right before they went on tour. And it was just like, I think it's all, maybe it's just about me getting giddy about working on stuff, but yeah.
People respond to the rawness too, because it's like you say, writing a song in an hour, it's going to be very human. And like, who are you writing the music for is other humans.
Yeah.
It's like the more time you take, like thinking about it, pouring over it, I guess, it's still human because you're still a human, but it becomes more of its own like weird thing. Whereas something raw poured out is just an emotion, like a burst of emotion put on paper, sung through a microphone, recorded, someone hears it, they relate to it as quickly as you put it out.
Yeah, that's absolutely, I was just gonna say that. Different people work in different ways, different artists work in different ways, but for me, like, I get in a mode and I need to get that emotion out at that moment. And then the longer, like, I think everybody criticizes their art, and the longer I sit down and look at something on paper or I listen back to it, I'm going to keep hearing things that are, like, off to me about it, and then I ruin it. Like, I have the potential to ruin my own art because I could sit there and overthink it. And I've just found that, like, by not doing that, stuff that's better comes out.
Yeah.
How is it looking back then? Like, so now when you put the vinyl on and you listen to it, like, what thoughts go through your head?
For the most part, I think, like, I like how that album came out because it was done just how I write. Like, it was done in a weekend. And, like, that's how, like, when you go see us live, we sound like that because that's our sound live. We're not, like, it's not individually tracked and nothing is, like, over-mixed or anything like that. If anything, I think we sound better live now than we did when we recorded that album, only because we've been practicing for a year longer now at this point. We've toured more and we've played together more. But listening back on it, I definitely, like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is my band in its youth, for sure. Like, I definitely hear, like, we're tighter now than we are on that album. Like, I even said to Brandon that I think that the version of Plate Glass he has from DIY Sessions is better than our album one. Just because when we recorded it, we were playing together every single day for, like, 2 months.
I feel
So we
that.
were tight, you know.
That tour tightness
Yeah.
can't be matched.
Yeah, and no, and actually, like, the reason why I like doing the sessions so much is because, like, I feel like when people are in that mode of, like, let's get this done right, like, there's just so much more power. I was telling April about, like, we were reflecting on this band from Boston called Troll 2. They came to my house at 4 in the morning. We slept for 2 hours, and 7 a.m. before they had to go to NOLA, we did a session. It was really quick.
Wow.
And the energy in the song that we released, As Hard as a Man, like, I would, like, listen to ours and I listened to hers, and I was like, wow, there's just that power in it. And I think it really comes down to the fact, like, if you keep doing everything, and it just gets more, like, yeah.
And is it, you have electric bands too?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. And when you do that, do you record everything through separate channels, or is there still just a mic in the room?
So everything is multi-tracked all the time. The only difference, and it's unintentional, is I guess we've become a folk punk channel. The sessions was never supposed to be about it. In fact, we were going to have, like, hip-hop and metal bands. It's just the fact that, like, all my buddies play folk punk. But
I never realized how many folk punk bands there are.
yeah.
It's crazy because, like, when I almost see, like, how it happens, you know what I mean? From, like, my time starting out, like, hearing a band that I really liked, and I'm like, I want to play music like that, you know?
Yeah.
And then there's a whole bunch of bands playing a style that you never heard a couple years before. Folk punk wasn't, like, a thing in 2003, at least not that I knew about. Maybe it was, like, deep underground. But then it was like you heard a couple bands, and then now with the DIY sessions, it's great because if you love that kind of music, you'll be introduced to so much. And the thing that I've been noticing about the folk punk scene is there's a hell of a lot of good players. For my money, probably more so than in the punk scene right now. Like, if you're just talking about, like, handling an instrument and, like, really, like, wowing a crowd with your ability to play, not necessarily songwriting or live performance energy, like mosh pit. I'm not counting that. Just, like, there was one video that would, like, it was going all in cycles, and there's just, like, this kid's finger picking ability on the banjo is incredible. And then I was thinking, like, where do they learn to even play these instruments? Like, nobody even had this stuff when we were playing punk rock, you know?
I think that there's, like, a certain craft to playing acoustic instruments too that you don't get with, like, the reason I love playing acoustic is because it's very raw and stripped down, and there's, like, if you make a mistake, you hear it when you're playing acoustically. Like, if your guitar goes a little out of tune, but it's, like, fucking distorted beyond all hell, and there's drums and there's bass, like, you're not gonna hear that shit, you know?
Yeah.
So, but like, acoustic, it's, like I said, it's very raw, and there's, like, not as much margin for error or any as there is. So, like you said, there's, like, a lot of good players. Like, I respect acoustic musicians because of that, and, like, I like bluegrass, I like folk music, like, all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, there's a lot of bands that also just don't care. I've seen so many. People will talk to me about all the time, like our Rail Yard Ghost videos. They always complain, like, "Oh, I wish that I would really get into them if they just tune their instruments better."
That's the charm.
Tuning is the key. Tune. If you tune
to be
it.
in the key.
Yeah, tuning is the key to being
Get
a
a
key.
tuning key.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and that must be a little more nerve-wracking. Mm-hmm. Like, knowing that, like, I mean, I guess even, you know, people don't really mind mistakes as much as the musician minds them.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
And especially in the punk scene, they don't. I
yeah,
mean,
but still, like,
at the
being
end
up
of the
there.
day, these kids are like, what is that, a giant, like, is that a ukulele? Like, my boyfriend's, like, Dan's playing a mandolin. He grew up playing bluegrass music, and he's like,
Oh, really?
these people are calling in a ukulele. But it's like, whatever, they're just excited to see a different instrument that, like, you don't typically see in punk music being
For
played, I
sure.
think. Like, they're like, oh man, like, you're playing a fiddle and a mandolin, that's cool. You know? I think that's what drew me to folk punk. I was like, oh, these, like, crazy cool instruments. Like, I wanted to start a band like Really Our Ghost that had, like, 12 people playing, like, fucking pots and pans and, like, anything that
Yeah.
and then, like,
Real, like, a Rio deathmatch.
yeah,
They just
and then
got,
once
like,
I
their own
started
instruments, they created it.
once I started playing, I was like, oh, it's actually easier to, like, manage a band and sound good when you have less people playing than like, you know, 12 or, you know, my band went from having like 5 to 4 to 3
You
members,
learn
and
that
now
fast.
I feel like we finally sound tight because, like, the 3 of us can, like, sync up. And
How long have you been doing it? How long have you been playing music?
I played guitar when I was a little kid. I did like lessons. I learned how to play power chords, and I quit the lessons, and then I started like a punk band that was really shitty and played one show in my parents' basement. And then I
Legendary.
didn't. Yeah, we were called Velocity from Staten Island, New York.
Nice.
And then I didn't play guitar again until like I was 24 years old. Like I kind of like I would have an acoustic guitar laying around that kind of was out of tune, and sometimes I would like strum on it, but I never really pursued it. I never wrote songs or anything like that until I was 24.
What caused like the time in between that you just Velocity broke up before their time? You know,
I was like probably 12 when Velocity broke up.
Whoa.
And then to be honest, it was a lot of like I found drugs, I found alcohol, and that provided like the same kind of like satisfaction to me, but without the work of having to like spend time learning to play or like getting better at it. And I think that's like I've been clean now for almost 3.5 years. I don't drink or anything like that. But like for those years where I like discovered substances and those kind of became like my life and like my driving force, I gave up a lot of things that I loved doing, and music was one of them. And I was highly discouraged from doing music because I felt like I would never be good enough at it. There was like a lot of self-criticism, a lot of like self-hatred that fed into all of that. And I got sober when I was 24. So I picked up a guitar when I was in rehab, and I remembered that was a thing that I liked doing, and it made me happy. And I was actually patient and willing to put in the time to work, and it became a thing that helped me stay clean. So.
Wow.
And April actually does. What's the name of the organization?
Second Chance to Play.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say we were interviewing. Oh man, what's his name?
David Prino.
From The Virus, and he does the storefront of Young, Angry, and Poor. And actually, at the end of our interview, he was actually asking about like if he could donate guitars, and that's when I actually learned that April like makes sure that all of these rehabs have instruments because like it helped her, and I like it really struck a chord in my heart. And I was like, oh,
that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, the rehab I went to had guitars, and there was some really cool people there that played, and like they taught me stuff. Like I would get up at 5 a.m. every day I was there because I couldn't sleep anyway. But there was this dude that his name was Matt, and I don't know where he is now or if he's sober or anything like that. But he would play blues with me, and he taught me how to like play some things I didn't know. He was like super patient. There was a girl there named Lily that she sang so good, and I was like trying to get her to sing while I played. So I was trying to teach her a song, and she was like, "Why don't you just sing it?" And I was like, "No, I can't fucking sing. Like I'm terrible at singing." And she was like, "You're not as bad as you think you are." And that sentence like probably changed my life because it resonated with me more than like you always hear shit like that, but like that moment it was like I was sober for like probably 3 weeks at that point. So like it actually hit me in a way that it had never had before. And I was like, I realized at that moment that like self-criticism was what held me back my whole life and doing anything I loved. And like I know that like we talk about like that kind of stuff with like living your dream and like actually just fucking doing it and like knowing that you could do it and like you could do it better than like some people that you hear and people that you see. So like I completely like changed my life off that moment, and I figured that some people that I know are in rehab right now or that are trying to get clean, like they sold their instruments to get high. They might be in a treatment center that like doesn't have a guitar in it, so they wouldn't have that opportunity to have that moment. But I know there's people out there that can have that moment too. So I wanted to try to put guitars in all the rehabs and to get them to people that might need them that are in early recovery. That's so we started out doing that in Lancaster probably, I want to say it was a little over a year ago at this point. And we now have a guitar in every rehab in that area. Wow. And we're working on getting them in other ones. So.
No, and that's beautiful. Like, and the cool thing is like, it's not like just you like it was like the dude from The Virus. He was like, "Hey, I've got these wings. I need to trim them down anyways." And I think that's beautiful because I feel like there's a lot of people who are looking for answers but don't know like where to start off. And like you said, like you were told that sentence and it made you change everything, and that's just beautiful.
Thank you.
I like that too because it's like it wasn't like she told you like, "Wow, you're amazing." She's just like, "You're not as bad as you think you are," and that was enough to be like, "Hey," but maybe that's what you needed to hear because maybe something like "You're incredible" would have seemed like insincere.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you could tell like, really? You think so? Like, you know, and then part 2 with singing is like knowing your limits. Like if, like I said to somebody the other week, like if you can tell yourself like, I'm not that great of a singer, you're already better than someone who is at the same skill level as you but tells themselves they're good. Because then they're going to be trying to run all these Mariah Carey scales and it's just going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
If you're modest and humble about it and you can stay in like a respectable range, you can get work done with.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could get better at stuff too. That was like something that I never like. I thought people that played music or that did anything were just good at that. Like, oh, they're just so good at like, I don't like, it's stupid, but you get better at everything with practice. And I learned how to live sober. Like I got sober and I learned how to live every day. Like I didn't know how to live without drinking or doing drugs every day. So like, just like I could do that, I realized that like I could learn how to get better at playing music if I just played every day. If I sang every day, eventually like one day I was singing in my bedroom alone and I was like, it like clicked and I sang something in key. And I was like, I heard it in my ears, and I was like, "Oh, that's how you fucking sing!" Like, I get it. Like I didn't know how to do this. Like, that's one of the biggest things I try to tell people that like our music and that are our fans is that like anybody, like Brendan said earlier, anybody could be Punk with the Camera. Like anybody could be Apes of the State. You just gotta fucking get a guitar, sing in your bedroom, and like eventually somebody's gonna give you a show. And you could keep doing it. Eventually, you might fucking sing in key one day, and it'll click. Or you won't, and it won't matter because you're playing folk punk anyway.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, when I first started getting into the arts, I always wanted to do music, but I was in a band and it broke up, and it was really terrible. And I told myself that I'd never play in a band again because it stressed me out too much. I was like, oh, that's so much disappointment. Like, I'm only going to work on stuff that I'm confident in. And it wasn't until my best friend, partner in crime, and that we do everything together. McKenna. Yeah, she's a badass. She does Ribfish. She is Punk with a Camera. Like, she was like, Brennan, let's make music. And we've actually been working on this album for, like, most of this year. And I sent it to all my close friends. And, like, their responses like give me hope, and like especially the ones who are critical and they're like, this actually sucks. Like that's that honesty fucking matters. But I remember
that helps.
Yeah, and I had a buddy of mine. Her name's Tank. She lives in Dallas. She just played her first show and she was super super nervous about it. And I sent her this song that I wrote. That was I wrote it on accident. I was trying to write this really sad song about my friend who died, and I could never play the fucking words right. And on accident I just played a whole song. It was like 3 chords, but one of the verses at the end, I was like, I think you'll really connect to it. It was something along the lines of like, and just remember that nobody knows the lines to any of your fucking shitty tunes, or something like that. It was really cute and it rhymed. And I sent it to her and she was like, you're right. And she went and she played the show, and she didn't, I mean, I haven't talked to her enough about it, but she told me like that really resonated with her, and I was like, sick.
That's cool, man. Yeah, you find a lot of like reciprocal moments in the music world, and like for every person who's like, yo, I loved your song, you could say that about like 1,000 other songs too, and
yeah,
it just is this like it's like a dragon, just never ending, always moving.
Like Goku running down Snake Way.
Yeah, exactly. Not like a European dragon, like a Chinese dragon.
Yeah, never ending.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Playing live, I don't know. I feel like I get more nervous in the studio than playing live.
Really?
I never really got those jitters, but like there were a lot of times like getting in front of the mic and then like thoughts start to come into my head. Maybe you have more time to think, because live it's just like, well, almost like your songwriting style, April. Like, I'm not going to hold anything back. Just let it out. This is what it is. In the studio, then you're standing there, the engineer's waiting for you to, say go. Or even in here, if I'm the engineer and pushing the record button, I'm like, okay, like people are going to be listening to this forever. Hopefully somebody is. So it's like, however I pronounce this word, like this is gonna be how that word is pronounced for all time. Okay. It's gonna be etched in stone. But the playing live thing, I think I'm lucky for that, though, because a lot of people do say about... Do you get nervous playing live, April?
It depends on the show. The last time I remember being nervous before a show was the Days and Days show in Strasbourg, just because there were so many fucking people there.
That's a big venue, Sherman Theater.
Yeah. Well, we were in the lobby, but, I mean, there was just so many people there.
It's a big lobby.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Like, if it's a show like that, yeah, I'll get nervous, but otherwise, playing in our friends' basements and houses, like I always feel comfortable at a house show or at a small gig.
And sometimes I feel like that nervousness can be cued if you know what you're wanting. Like if you're like really good. Like the difference between like people who are just recording just to hit record and the people who are really about like getting you to get it recorded right was it really, I'd never really seen it before. But in January when we first did our first recording with Escape from the Zoo, McKenna did everything. She mastered everything, and she was so good with it because Veronica, Jesse's wife, played. She sang and she did mandolin, and like she would be like, "Everyone needs to get out of the room. I don't want to hear anyone. No one can be here. It can't be." But you know, the difference was like she was totally comfortable with McKenna, and it came down to the fact of like that uncertainty of like, did it do it right? Like people who might be recording you who are getting paid is like, "Let's do it again." And that like, oh, I messed up. Like, it's totally on me, and I feel bad about it. But, like, I think the difference between, like, what McKenna does and whatever, like, some of the people who are just getting paid to do it was, like, if Veronica messed up, and she told me about it, sometimes she's like, it was so much nicer. It would be like, hey, do you want to do that again? Yeah, the way, like, the way people approach it. So that way you're not totally anxious. Like, it's not, you know, it's not totally time sensitive. We're going to get it right. And I think that really makes a difference.
Yeah, you got to have a good chemistry with your engineer or your producer. And Dan McKinney and I always had that. It was the same way. Like, we used to do, looking back on it, were just podcasts. I'd be in the booth, and he'd be in the control room, and I'd be, like, maybe having trouble with it, getting frustrated with the verse or a line. And we'd start to talk, and he'd be like, you know, say comforting things like, look, if the line doesn't work, just don't. And then somehow like a conversation, before we know it, we're like talking for a half hour or 45 minutes, like through the mic, you know, in separate rooms in the same building. And they're like, all right, should we do a take? Like, yeah, but that's really important. And I think people will know right away going to like, you know, like we were talking before about home recording versus working at a studio. You'll know when it's right, and I think, I don't know, maybe the listeners will too. I don't know if that. Yeah. I think you must hear the chemistry in music, like you kind of hear how it was made, like the intention behind the songs. Yeah, but I think that the DIY sessions is a really cool idea. Like, how many bands have you recorded? About?
A lot. I don't know them. I think it's more than 30 now. To put it in perspective, we're approaching on 1 year of constant new content. So when it comes to DIY sessions and punk with the camera, I like to think of myself as like the organizer and someone who does all the video stuff, and like McKenna will do all of the really impossible audio stuff I could never touch. Like it'd be nothing without her. But like basically I would try and schedule with her because she goes to school full time for like chemistry or something crazy, and we would still be able to like fit in like, oh man, anywhere 3 to 7 bands a month.
Whoa, that's a lot.
So yeah, and it would be...
It's only 4 weeks in a month.
Yeah, exactly. So there would be like 2 bands each week, sometimes maybe 3, or like we'd do 3 bands in one day, and it was super crazy. But you know, we kind of like built up this chemistry of like, okay, this, if we do it right and we plan it out right, if it's a solo band, it'll take 30 minutes. If it's a big band that's folk and acoustic, it'll take like an hour and a half. If it's a full band that has electronics, well, that's going to take longer. But like... I don't know. I'm rambling. I forgot the question.
Are you savvy on how to make your YouTube channel lucrative?
Lucrative in what way?
Like making money?
Not really. You know, like there's...
Do you monetize it?
Yeah, we monetize it.
Yeah.
But, you know, we don't charge bands to come on.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, like, just in views and, like, ads and things like that. Like, do you use Google AdSense? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, so actually the interesting thing...
I've got $9 in there right now. Man.
You do. Yeah, it's they want you to have $100 before you can collect it.
I think I made like $7 so far on it.
Yeah, well, because the interesting thing on YouTube, and it was a really big day when it happened, was the day that we actually got our first paycheck from YouTube. It was super cool, and like I completely cut my money down the middle with McKenna, and we make an okay amount. It's not like, oh, we make hundreds of dollars. It'll be like, hey, we made $50 this month.
Yeah, but $50 pays your car insurance or your phone bill or...
And it's super rad.
Buys groceries. It's awesome.
And it's extra income from doing what we love. But there are actually other band like YouTube channels that do the same stuff that we do that are like, okay, we want money from the bands and stuff on it. And I'm always just like, I'll just throw a monetize on it. And I actually never put any of the money in our pocket. We actually mail out a lot of our merch for free, and every month I'll go on Instagram and be like, hey, I bought all the supplies from this month's YouTube paycheck, and I'll be like, does anybody want a patch? Cool. Or a pin or whatever.
Smart.
And I'm like, mail us your email and I'll send them a bunch of extra ones, and then they can give it to their friends. So like, yeah, we monetize our stuff, but we're not greedy about it.
You also invest all of it back into your own project. So, you're constantly improving. That's a big difference between a lot of things. Like, we do that with our band too.
Yeah.
We don't ever like, I don't take a check out of like Spotify to pay our rent. It goes back into paying for gas on tour or for recording our next album or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to do it, because I've met a lot of anarchist friends who are like super like, oh, you shouldn't make money off your art, or everything should be free, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, well, we live in America.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it costs you to make it.
Yeah.
It costs you money to make your art. Like, it costs you money to buy your equipment, whether you're a musician or a filmmaker. It costs you gas to get where you're going. You got to feed yourself somehow. So.
Yeah, I always say that money doesn't matter to me. I only raise it so that way it stops the roadblocks of life.
Yeah.
If I want to go on tour, raise a couple $100 to go out, and it's really cool because I don't have to always rely on the multiple jobs I have. We've recently been able to get a budget with like Patreon and YouTube, and it's super rad.
Cool. I'd be interested to know too how many of these people who criticize us over like selling things and wanting to make a little bit of money are just like the trust fund punks. Anyway, it seems like anybody who really knows struggle has no problem with you selling your records, and they're not going to be like calling you a capitalist. It's like, dude, if I could write a song and somebody's like, yeah, I'll give you a loaf of bread for a verse, like, I'll make it 2 loaves of bread and then we got a deal.
Yeah.
Or like, yo, like I'll I don't, and it always comes down to just the society that you live in. It's like, it is such a trap, because it's like, I want to make money so that I can get somewhere to play a show. Then you're buying gas, and it's just like, holy shit. Now, like, my passion, music, is totally dependent on the system that we're like raging against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's just how it's set up. I wish it wasn't this way. It is. I mean, what really can be done about it?
Yeah.
Can you beat the system by using the system? It's like the question that's on everyone's mind.
No,
Yeah.
And actually, me and April were talking about some of that stuff a little bit on the ride up here. Like, she was asking me like what I got our T-shirts made for, because we are actually getting a second order made, and our T-shirts are. And, if you were to go anywhere else, it would probably be a whole lot more expensive because they're 4-color press. But I'm able to sell mine for $10 because my really good buddy Josh, who runs Third String Printing, is a single dude, and we work out a deal, and it works out pretty well. And so like I never try. I always try to break even, because I know you're never gonna make money on your art. That's the honest truth. Now you can. Don't get me wrong, but
I hope you do.
Touring, you can.
Yeah, you can, but
you can get a little bit of cash together
Yeah.
with a tour, but it's expensive to tour too.
Exactly. It's a giant balance game. But basically, like, I look at it like,
gotta have the startup cash.
Yeah.
if I could give everybody a T-shirt, I'd give everybody a T-shirt. But I just try and sell it at cost. So it's like you throw something online and you're like $10 for this T-shirt, right? I probably cost $4 to $5 to get the T-shirt made, and then you've got like $3 to $5 if it's in the US to mail it out. You're already at your $10, and then like you put it up on Store Envy, which is the cheapest one you can get, is like they'll take a cut there, and they take a cut out of PayPal, and it comes down to like, okay, price it enough to where you can break even and you'll be fine. That's how I look at it.
I mean, I hope people make money with their art, and I totally support their quest to do so, because I love the art and I understand like what it takes. If like somehow together we could come up with a way to smash the state, like let's do that. But I don't know. Somebody smarter than me is gonna have to come up with it.
The big thing is like in the art world, you have to spend so much money to make it's that constant spend money to make money thing. And one of my really closest friends is Whitney, and she plays in Days and Days, and she tells me all the time, she's like, Brandon, do you know how many thousands of dollars I've wasted on Days and Days? you know. And the difference is she kept like going out and like spending money and never having that instead of like, I'll make it back. And, you know, you look at it now, they've been a band for 15 years, and in the last 3 of those years,
that long?
Yeah, they've been a band for a really long time, but in the last 3 of those years, have they ever made anything?
2002?
Yeah, I think Whitney was in college at where was she at? Her and Jesse shared a bedroom in college, and they wrote love songs, and people liked it.
Somewhere, probably more like 10 years.
Yeah, I think it was 10.
Was it? I know it's been a while.
Because they're younger than me, and I wasn't college age in 2002. But it's beside the point.
Yeah, but they,
a long time.
Yes, a long time. But I remember her telling me the story. She's like, you know, up until Oogle Death Machine, they really get like a lot of like following, and then Rogue Taxidermy came out and it blew up, and
They're huge.
they're here now and they're doing US tours and they're selling out Europe and they're gonna go other places.
From where I'm standing, they're the biggest band in the world for all intents and purposes.
Exactly.
You know what I
And I
mean?
feel like the difference is I've taken a lot of influence from Whitney and like how she's done things, and it really does come down to that fact of like, you know, you might not make a lot of money, but if a lot of people know what you've got and you give them your all and you're super sweet, and you know, people want to come back to that.
She's a strategic genius.
Oh yeah, she's the smartest, strongest woman I know.
Well, listen to this, man. Like, this is kind of funny. We're talking about this stuff, and I haven't made a flyer for a local show in a while, and I had like this whole flashback of how it used to be. Like when I was booking no cash shows, we'd go to Staples. Sometimes I'd be working in there feverishly, trying to put together this flyer, cutting up and glue sticks. And like little plastic handled scissors and whiteout and pen and markers, everything working in there, like just hanging out at Staples for a couple hours, and then printing them, maybe darken it, lighten it a little bit, try it out on like different sizes, different color paper.
Was that when they didn't even do full color or black and white? They had like the red boxes.
They had a full color print. Maybe they didn't even have a full color printer at that point behind the counter, but they had like a little corral with all black and white printers. And then I'd print, I don't know, 500 flyers, and then I'd go to the counter and they asked me how many I printed, and I'd be like 75.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, okay, and then I would pay however much per flyer, and then I'd pass like a tenth of them out, and the rest are probably still sitting up in my mom's barn. You know what I mean? And I try to like, those are cool to find, because then I'll just give them out like with merch orders, and people will be like, oh shit, No Cash is playing in 2001. Like, but, now when I made this, it was like I made the flyer in Microsoft Paint, I emailed it to the lady at the desk from my phone while in the store.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted a handful of them to pass out at this festival we went to over the weekend. And I didn't, because I hate passing out flyers. They're all just downstairs. And I think I gave like 3 to my friends who I knew there. But then there was like an extra charge on the receipt for how much the flyers. To get like 20 of them, it was like $5, which seemed crazy to me. First she wanted 20, and I was like, that can't be right. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I had it set on full color. And I'm like wondering, is that like the default setting, and they just try to get people to like not catch it and pay the money, trying to make back some of that money from all the flyers that I guess
stole back in 2001,
stealing, right?
I was gonna say one of my.
But then the punchline is what the price was. She's like, well, that's for a rush job, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, I'm the only person in the store though. And then she's like, yeah, but I've got other orders online. And then I was like, dude, it just was like one of those moments when you realize like how much shit has changed. But when it comes down to it, like from an environmental standpoint, like flyers aren't exactly like ecologically friendly, and are they really necessary anymore? Like everyone has a flyer receptor in their pocket, and then you get them directly to the people who actually care, versus hanging this piece of paper up at the grocery store. No one's gonna look at it. We're like trained to ignore advertisements almost.
And it's you know, that digital revolution has really increased how people can go do shows and do things. You know, like a lot of you expect like nothing's happening in your town. You pop up Facebook and you got 43 events happening, and you're just like, oh, okay. But I was gonna say, one of my favorite scams that I've ever been told was similar to the printing of the flyers. But in Office Max, you've got these printers that are out there, and most people who work at Office Max make minimum wage, and they don't give a shit. So there was a buddy of mine, he told me, he's like, man, getting your CDs made is freaking stupid. It's like just as hard as getting vinyl made. There's always a wait time. We just do it DIY, and we fold the paper up. So I had a buddy of mine, he told me that he would go in with his flash drive and plug it into the print machine. And there wasn't ever like a password override. Like if you wanted to print 1,000 copies, you'd print 1,000 copies. So he would go into Office Max, he would plug his thing in and print like 1,000 copies of his CD that he would later fold into a thing, and then he would walk off, and then one of his other cronies would come up and just take that and go to the car, and then they'd leave.
Whoa.
And it's like,
that's like way more stealing than what I was doing. I maybe just miscounted or hit the wrong button. And then if you got like, what is it, theft over 1,000 would be like a bigger crime than just like petty shoplifting.
yeah.
Over $1,000.
What were their names?
Not
First and
not
last.
1,000
Yeah.
flyers.
Well, as far as like when you're on the road and you're broke and you're like, we need to get merch, that's probably one of the craftiest scams I've heard in a long time.
Shit, man. I used to read that. What was that? Is it the
Anarchist Cookbook.
No, Steal This Book.
Steal this book, yeah.
Yeah, and I would like all those little tips and tricks in there. Put super glue over the coin slot in the parking meter. Little troublemakers.
Well, anyway, good thing we're musicians. We don't need to steal money. People just give it to us, right?
Yeah, they just steal it from us.
Yeah, they just rip it online. I was honestly surprised at how many people have ripped our videos, and I never thought about it. I was like, huh.
How does that make you feel?
I think it's cool.
I've ripped your videos.
Like a
Yeah.
YouTube MP3 generator?
Like YouTube ripper.org or whatever.
Can you
like
really
these.
trust those, or do they just like destroy your computer from the inside out?
If you've got good ad blockers, you're fine. But I think it's fine because I feel like it's kind of stupid to try and prevent people from trying to get music because they're going to try and do it anyways. And it's like, it's a spread of information. That's all the internet is. And I feel like the way that our society works today, that without that spread of information, not a lot of things would be as big as they are on the DIY levels that they are, without people stealing our crap.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? Release a DVD of your DIY sessions?
We're gonna release the
box set.
box set, and it's gonna have behind the scenes episodes of all the mess ups that we didn't post
on VHS.
Yeah, I don't
Somebody
think
would buy it.
Yeah.
People were buying cassette tapes.
Yeah,
again.
true.
and it comes down to like. I feel
VHS
flattered,
player.
honestly. One of the
VCR.
one of the nicest things I think that was ever bad that happened was my friend told me that they stole a Punk with a Camera shirt, and I'm like, they wanted to steal a Punk with a Camera shirt?
So cool. Yeah. I always say that when we're on tour and like we're like, should we lock the car? Should we do this? Like I'm like, all our instruments are inside. If they want to steal a box of Apes of the State vinyls, like great. Good luck getting rid of them.
Yeah. Nobody.
We can't even sell these things. Yeah. Man.
But yeah, I feel like it's totally cool. Like it should be that way. We set up our Bandcamp. When we started doing Ribfest Records, we're like, okay, we'll do a label and we'll throw them on Bandcamp. And Bandcamp wants like $20 a month to run a label on Bandcamp. I'm like, fuck this. We'll say it's a band.
That's pretty hefty.
Yeah. Like there's no income as it is, and the money that you do make from Bandcamp, they take such a cut. So like we made our like DIY Ribfest label through Bandcamp, and it's an artist account, and that's fine. And I think it's great because we can tell people that they can pay what they want, and the only downside is there's only like a limited amount per month, and I think that's the only thing that I don't like. I want everything to be free, honestly.
Do you think it's better to do pay what you want or set a price? Like
pay what you want.
You do pay what you want in your Bandcamp, right?
Yeah, but for the first 6 months that our album was out, I didn't. Like when we initially needed to recoup costs of recording, I put it up for money.
Yeah.
But then like after a certain point, like right before we left for our second tour, I was like, let's just make it free. And like I think we've probably made more money since we made it free because people have the freedom. Like people that normally couldn't spare $7 to $10 can spare $1. Like a lot of the time, like almost every single day, multiple times per day, people throw $1 at my album.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's like.
And,
I make $5, but that's $5 I wouldn't have made if I had it set at $7.
Is that what you would recommend then, to set it for free or pay what you want?
Depends on like, did it cost you money to record? absolutely, you should recoup those costs. And then after that point, whatever.
Yeah.
That's like I said, like we were saying earlier, it always costs money to make money. So like I think that like we shouldn't drive ourselves into being like in debt to make albums for our fans. But at the same time, like after I recoup those costs, I don't care anymore about like making money beyond that. Like anything beyond that is extra. I'm like, great, like this will go towards recording our next album,
Yeah.
which we like started saving up for. So
And like when we were in Colorado the first or second time working on, we made a Broken Bow music video, and instead of getting a flight home, I rode back with Jesse when they were doing an Escape from the Zoo tour. And it was kind of funny because that whole tour, he told me there was room, but what he didn't tell me was I would be in the fetal position for 2,000 miles. But what really surprised me was all of their shows, everything, only the t-shirts cost money and everything was pay what you want. And I remember them talking about it when we recorded the album at McKenna's in my house in January. And Veronica and them were like bickering back and forth about it, like what they should do. And I sat down and I was like, well, why are you going to give all your merch away for free? And it's like, well, because there's going to be somebody who looks at it and says, well, you know, here's $20. You need it more than me. There's going to be those kids who are like going to abuse it and they'll take stuff. But there's going to be those kids who are like, here, this is what I have. Like, are you sure? And I think that really makes a difference because that's how I like to set up my merch. I always set up like a donation thing and it's like, donate it if you can. It's okay if you can't. That's what I always write down. And I think it really hits people because it's like, I have always made more money when it's donation based just because I feel like people are more generous with the honesty. Because when it comes down to it, I don't care. You know, I am very lucky in the sense that I can make my own patches. I have a button press. It doesn't matter to me. And when I sat down and I went on that tour with Jesse, it really made me notice that the people who are like really hardcore fans of your stuff, maybe they can't afford it. But in the future, they will. And I've had it set up to where maybe it's a Patreon and I mailed a care package to someone and had a whole bunch of stuff and they were like, I don't have any money. And I'm like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. And maybe in the future they donate $5 to our Patreon and become a pledge. And it's just like that, like back and forth, give and take. Money is monetary. You can always make it again. And that's how I kind of look at it. And you know, if somebody wants something of ours, I think that they should have it just because in the end result, you know, maybe someone's greedy and they'll never give it back. But at the same time, that one CD will really matter because like when I first started getting into it, there's this local band called Dead to the World. And they're kind of, they open for all the really big bands like Bad Religion. I remember I saw them at Fitzgerald's and I was like, I don't have any money, but I really love your music. And he just gave me his album. And that gesture really set with me of like, wow, I matter.
Yeah,
and that means a lot.
I appreciate where you're coming from, your spirit, but I don't think you should feel obligated to do that. Like the bar would never be like, you know, at the venue of the show, pay what you want. Somebody will give us $30 for a beer, and that'll make the difference. And at the same time, a lot of people who might criticize, you know, a musician or a band for like, oh, they claim to be against the state, but they're just capitalists themselves. And they'll be like, 3 rum and cokes, please. Like, oh, those will be $12 a piece. Like, here's my card. Yeah. And it's like, they don't question that, and that's totally fine. No. $10 to get into the show is such a big problem to them, but a $14 Long Island iced tea with like a splash of whatever liquors in that drink is totally acceptable.
But you know, I feel like those two situations are kind of different in a way because you know a bar's not to discredit your thing, but a bar is always going to try and make money off the thing. But at the same time, you know, if a band wants to be like a bar, they can be like a bar. If a band wants to be like that way, yeah, exactly. It's completely how people are, and I think that level of like be what you want is what matters the most. So.
Yeah. I personally would rather have people have our merch than me have their money. Like, I've definitely mailed things out at a loss, like you were just talking about the shirts. Like, I've mailed things out at a loss, but then somebody came and donated $20 on our Bandcamp and made up for that.
It's a weird karma system.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, I've had people, like, go to buy merch and then their cards declined or whatever, and I'm just like, you know what, dude, take it. Like, if you want the t-shirt, like, I hope you wear it every day and that you love it and that, like, you can show 10 of your friends my music. And then I'll have 10 more fans in whatever city in Illinois that will come through to the show next time. Like, I'd rather, like, spread that than have people's cash. At the same time, you know, you need cash to get by. So,
yeah,
it's a balance.
It is a huge balance, you know? There are times where, like, that might be acceptable. I would love for it to always be that way. But there are times where I'm like, shit, you know, maybe I spent way too much money trying to get these t-shirts ordered, or like maybe I didn't set the shipping up right for Canada or the international. And
oh my
like,
god, Canada's the
expensive.
worst. It's
Yeah.
like $11 minimum
For a
like
CD,
fucking
right?
anything.
Yeah.
yeah, and they don't do media mail.
Yeah.
People get frustrated with that. They're like, dude, the shipping is more than the merch. And I'm like, man,
This is where you
if I
live.
could deliver it to you, you know, I would do that. But
In that case, when people want to order international, I always tell them just send me a message and like work something out, because
Yeah.
like I don't want them spending like $15 for the vinyl and then like $20 shipping on top of that. I'm like, I'll sell you the vinyl for what it cost me to make it, and then
Yeah.
I'll ship it.
And
Because,
that's
like I'd
cool.
rather like I said, I'd rather have people have our music than have their money.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something I didn't exactly hit on, was like all the stuff that I give away for free. It's something that it doesn't cost me jack shit to make. I actually made a video about how we make our patches, and I took a paycheck from a Starbucks. We went and we traveled, and I only worked like 2 weeks because I basically I have secondary jobs to put money into Punk with a Camera, and I took the $48 or whatever it was, and I tried to make as many patches as I could, and I got the material and I mailed it out, and I ended up having like $8 in return, and I sat down and I was like, man, if you know if t-shirts cost money, vinyl costs money, sell it for that. But if you have the opportunity to sell things for really cheap, you might as well give it away for free.
Yeah.
You know, because you streak those chords with people, and maybe they'll want to come out to more shows, or maybe they'll show everything with their friends. And I feel like that, like building that relationship thing, really matters.
Yeah, like stickers. It costs like $40 to make like 500 stickers.
Yeah.
And like you go play in a city and give out like 100 fucking stickers at the show, and then the next time you go through, they're all over the damn city. Like we played at a rehab, and like we went back there a couple months later, and like the Apes of the State stickers were like in the bathroom, like on top of all like the stalls and shit. We were just like, hell yeah, like that's awesome.
You did a show at a rehab center?
Yeah, we do that sometimes.
Oh, cool.
The one I went to has like a music program where they have bands come in, so occasionally we go, and when we go do those shows, like I give away everything for free. I'll bring like a box of CDs, stickers, whatever.
That's neat.
Yeah, because the rehab pays us for it. They'll give us like $100. So I'm like, well, if it's already paid for, fuck, I'll give away $100 worth of merch. Who cares? You know, I make a bunch of fans and connect with people.
In what cities have you done that?
That one is in Akron, Pennsylvania. So it's like Ephrata, near Lancaster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't know that I've ever really been to Lancaster. Lancaster or Lancaster?
Yeah, Lancaster.
I still don't even know how to fucking say it, and it's right there.
You know, I was really blown away because it's such a tiny town. It's like 2 miles wide, and
Lancaster.
we came in and we stayed at April's house, and she was like, "Oh, if you're bored, go down to Young, Angry, and Poor." And I'm like, "What?"
Angry,
On your
young,
phone,
and
on the website.
Yeah.
yeah. But no, she's like, "No, they got a storefront, and it's like 2 blocks away." And I'm like,
In a residential neighborhood in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
"Yeah, it's so weird."
It's not even in like the downtown where the rest of the stores are. It's like, it kind of feels like it's out of place. But
Yeah, it's like
Lancaster's a cool city. It's got a good thriving music scene.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, we've started like a little house show scene.
Oh, cool.
There's a cool thing going there.
I've only ever been to, and this is why, like I say, kind of, I've been to Millersville, and I've been on the campus because I had a drummer once who went to school there. And I think actually my current keyboard player went to school there as well. But we practiced there one time. But I don't know if I really counted that as...
That's not really Lancaster. It's it's Lancaster
right?
County,
Yeah.
but it's not the city of Lancaster.
Well,
Funnily enough, we were at Millersville
Yeah.
University yesterday. That's where we filmed the Bill Collector's music video.
Oh, cool.
yeah, a good bit of it, and it definitely.
And isn't that song about, like... Does that
Yeah.
have the line about college debt?
Yes,
too?
exactly. That's why
Yeah.
we thought it was fitting. I have a
Yeah.
friend that's going there right now, so we have her be the main character.
It was great,
running
honestly.
around campus trying to go about her day.
Oh, cool.
as
It's
Bill
like a
Collector's
little
harasser.
movie.
Yeah,
The
Nice.
video is probably going to be the goofiest, strangest video ever made, because it's just one of those situations where it's like, we have an idea of what we want, but we have like limited amount of time to do it. So I think it was like 3 of Emily's friends, the main character, came up and they were like in these suits. One of them had a real nice suit too. It was like real Men in Black stuff. So we were like, okay, so we've got bill collectors. Emily's walking around. I guess they can just like follow her a bunch. When the video comes out, it's gonna be weird. That's all I can say.
Are they actresses, or they just want to do...
They're just people.
just
Yeah.
our friends.
I mean, they are
Emily
now.
Emily writes music under local news legend. which
Okay.
you may or may not have heard of her. She's kind of like internet famous.
Yeah.
She's
Oh,
famous in
cool.
my eyes.
She's like the real reason why people are gonna watch the video.
Yeah.
Who does she write? Who does she write for?
She writes as local news legend.
That's her
It's like a
solo
solo acoustic.
Oh, she's a musician.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I
It's-
thought you said she was like a writer for.
It sounds a lot
So
like
that-
AJJ, I think.
Yeah, we play pretty much every show we play in Lancaster is with her. We always
Cool.
play with her. She's our
It's like
favorite.
a little bundle of ginger joy.
I think that video is probably gonna be huge
We'll see.
because
I hope so.
It's the kind of thing where like, not myself personally, I'm a high school dropout, but almost everyone I know has that like extreme modern phenomenon of a problem of like that college debt
Yeah.
is just fucking insane.
I don't actually have college debt. The reason I wrote the song is because I have friends that did, and I actually played in a Riot Girl band at the time, and like every single
Is that Velocity?
No, this was in Lancaster
The story
after I played
unfolds.
again for a while.
Okay.
I was playing drums in a Riot Girl band, and the singer, like every time we'd be at practice, she'd get like 4 or 5 phone calls from bill collectors, like
That's
that would
insane.
disrupt our practice. And it was for her student loan, so I was like, I'm gonna write a song about that for you,
Oh,
like.
cool.
But like it is like something that kind of encompasses our generation, and like the whole idea that like we'll never be out of debt as like a generation, or we'll never even be able to like our parents were able to get so much with so little, whereas like now you can't do the same thing. And like
Yeah,
it's
wow.
funny, I wrote that song like when I just got out of rehab like 2 years ago, and like at that time I couldn't conceive that I would have anything I have now, or that my music would have gone anywhere, and like I was like kind of considering the idea of like just like giving everything up to like go play music on the street basically, and like go on tour and like not worry about it, because I see like a lot of traveling kids, like that's what they do, you know, like society you could just drop out of society and you can live like a meager life like playing music on the street and like busking
sure.
and stuff like that. So like the end verse kind of says that like we could sing for food and we'll never owe shit to anyone.
Yeah.
But like now, like I just bought a house, so like it's funny like looking back like 2 years ago I'm singing this song like, yeah, I'm just gonna like live on the street and like sing music, and like now I'm like, oh shit, I have a mortgage to pay, like I have debt and stuff like that. But so it's like it's interesting to see how I've evolved in 2 years, but I'm glad that I did.
That's fucking
So like
awesome.
I don't know, if anything I could say like even if you're a punk kid playing music and touring, you could eventually, you know, have something. Like it's going to be a million times harder than I think it was for our parents to get everything that they have, but it's still doable. Like right now I'm just like fixing up this really, like we bought it for really cheap, bought like a shitty old house and we're fixing it up. But it's like it's not worse than any other punk house that I've
Right.
been to, that you're paying rent to a landlord that sucks and is never going to fix anything.
Word.
Like we're paying ourselves and we're going to fix everything
Hell
on
yeah.
our time, and we'll be able to build it. So
And then that's like also an investment. And then when you decide later in life you want to sell it and then have some cash to just travel the world until you
yeah,
die,
exactly.
you know?
Like, or just be a resource. Like the biggest thing is I think I want to be a resource for my city, because I go all over the place and play people's houses, and like I've played houses where like people own their house, and it's like it's such a different experience. Like people respect the home, and like I can house bands and have them like have a clean place to sleep and like stay and like cook food for them and
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
And like have a show space. So
Yeah, they were telling me I need to come back in like 3 months. I've been sleeping
Yeah.
on the couch downstairs.
it's like a construction zone.
It's great.
I know that
The
game.
the basement's like flooding with sewage. The bathroom, yeah.
Everything needs redone.
Yeah,
basically.
everything is. It's yeah.
That's exciting though. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Like I'm envious, admittedly, because I know that it is an option to just drop out and live in abandoned gas stations and ride freight trains from coast to coast and
Squatters' rights.
and play banjo and just get really awesome and make money on the street and play for food scraps. But like, I don't like what my passion really is like electric rock and roll. You know what I mean? So and by rock and roll, I just mean everything under the drums, bass, keyboard, guitar umbrella.
Yeah.
So like, if I want to make that music, that lifestyle, although it is appealing to me, you know, not just having fun all day and going on adventures, solving mysteries and stuff, but I need an outlet and I need a roof and I need a wall, you know what I mean? And I need insulation. So it's like, okay, well, if you want that shit, now you got to play the game.
Yeah, you gotta balance
Yeah.
working and everything in order to pay
But like
rent
your
or
idea
house,
is
yeah.
dope, and that's what I would really like. My dream is to have like a big open area, like a warehouse type deal where I can have my kung fu school. Because right now I rent a room up in town and I teach martial arts, and I want to have a fucking skate ramp, little concert stage, like a setup like you got, Brennan, and like do the same thing, like all the bands who have put us up over the years, like same thing. Like I love that.
Return the
Being
favor.
able to- And I'm slowly starting to do that, like with the podcast. Like when people come through on tour, I want to try to take care of them, give them a spot to stay, and do the show with them. And it's been fun, but it's exciting times.
Yeah, and like I got a lot of friends who come up to me and they're like, I don't know how the fuck you do this shit, because they sit down like, and I'll leave town for like a month, right, and then I'll come back to town and I'll work like 2 shitty jobs, but then I'll also be doing like just side work on and just trying to like raise a bunch of money and go out and go to school at the same time. And they're like, how the fuck do you put this up? And I'm just like, man, when it comes down to it, school might not be for everybody, but you should always follow what's right for you. And I don't know, man, like you can do anything that makes you happy. You just gotta try.
You don't drink or do drugs?
So yeah, I'm pretty sober.
I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah.
I can. That's the only reason why I ask, because like I think a lot of kids your age will probably like it's tough, like when you reach 20 and you're like, oh shit, now I'm supposed to like get serious, and I think the obvious response to that is just hit the bar room and just drink the pain away, but it's the kids who are like, okay, let me get some shit done. I was kind of half and half.
Yeah.
I was like half and half. I worked real hard with the band, but also spent a lot of time
and
partying.
A huge thing with me was like, I've always been good with like balancing things. And like I sat down one day and I used to smoke like a pack of cigarettes a day, and I didn't tell my family or anything. And I used to drink sometimes.
Tough to hide a whole pack.
Yeah. And I sat down and I realized like, man, that's like $7 every like $7 every time that you need it, and it builds up, and I'm like, man, I could have bought a new lens.
Yeah.
And I sit down, and that's that factor on top of the whole thing, like I'm not comfortable when I'm high, is a big reason why I stayed sober. And it's saying sober's not for everybody, but at the same time, well, there's a lot of friends out there that's all they can deal with.
More weed.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. But at the same time, when it comes down to like what worked for me, I realized that when it came to the money that was coming in, I was spending way too much of it on cigarettes and all sorts of other things. And I was like, once I cut that out, I really started moving towards like what I wanted. And that really made the difference. Was I wasn't constantly worried about where money is going to be.
Life is a lot cheaper when you're sober.
Yeah, it really
like genuinely is so much cheaper. And like touring as a band, touring when you're sober, like if you're not spending like all the money you made on the show at the bar at the show, you walk out with money. So it's like like I noticed that difference for sure when I got sober. I was just like, oh, I'm not spending all, like I need way less money to live than I did when I was drinking, even just drinking. Like forget about the heroin habit, because that's like it's absurd how much money you spend on that. But like even just cutting out like the drinking and smoking weed, like I need way less money to survive than I thought I did. So like I'm able to get by with less and like do things like art and like do things like music.
Yeah, and I think it really does help. Like it's all, life is about money apparently, but if you can figure out the right ways to put it in the right spots, that's how it is. I mean, that's why I don't smoke anymore. That's why I don't drink. That's why I don't like to be high. It's because it costs money, and I could be spending that on things that can better my life.
And here you are traveling around the country doing what you want to do, whereas some other people, that's a big thing that's spoken about in our Kung Fu system, the difference between pleasure and happiness. Is like pleasure is smoking a cigarette, pleasure is taking a shot of whiskey, pleasure is fleeting. It's like in the moment, I'm having a great time, but afterwards it kind of takes something away from you. Whereas happiness is like, I'm doing push-ups and doing this stretch, and I'm not, this is hard work. And it's not like in that moment, you're not like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
But, I might say that, but I'm a little different, but like the average person. But then when you get out of it, afterwards you feel good.
Yeah.
That's happiness. It's like you earn happiness in a way.
You earn
like
that
this
quality.
trip, you put work in, you worked hard, had 2 jobs, put the money aside, saved up, didn't spend frivolously, didn't waste your money, and now here you are. And these memories, not only will it just be fond memories to look back on and making friends and value, immeasurable value of that nature, but how it'll shape your character in ways you won't even be able to explain.
Yeah.
It's a stable happiness rather than like an up and down. Like my life before being sober was always up and down. You know, I was always really, really happy or really, really sad. And now I feel like I'm not flatlined, but like
Yeah.
it might
not
be
manic
a
all the
flat
time.
line, but like it's like more on the happy end of the spectrum than on the sad. So like I'll trade that for the up and downs, I think.
Yeah.
3 years isn't that long of a time, too. Like, you'll probably just keep getting better and better.
Yeah. I mean, every year's been better than the last, so.
Like,
Yeah.
3 years after, like, if you said pretty much right after Velocity broke up, till, like, only 3 years ago, that was, like, more of your life
Yeah,
was spent
absolutely.
in that way of living.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've been sober.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of crazy, but you look healthy.
Yeah, thank you. Even though I'm tired as hell,
Yeah, I was gonna
working
say,
on my house every day.
This amazing human being has dealt with so much shit. Like, this is like the worst time that I could have ever come to her house, and how she's handled it. Like, I feel like I work hard, but I'm looking up to her real hard, man.
Well, it's Dan too, but yeah, we're probably like I don't want to say we're like the most hardworking like folk
Y'all
punk
kill it,
band,
though.
but we're like waking up at 6 a.m. to like work on our house before I go to my real job to like work 5 hours and then get off and like work on my house more and then like go to bed by like 10 o'clock because I'm a loser and like I'm fucking tired.
See-
and then I'm like driving 4 hours to drive Brandon somewhere on my off day where I should like Dad's texting me like, when are you getting home? I need help installing the washer and dryer. Like, you know, it's hard work, but yeah.
No,
I don't know.
but like that effort is like, that's a lot how I work, because, you know, like I'll wake up and I'll go to school until 1 o'clock, and then if I have a job I'll work until midnight, and then like I'll just do that on repeat, and I'm constantly trying to like work on myself rather than trying to make everyone else happy, and I feel like that, you know, that's really respectable. That you kill it.
Thank you. You kill it too. Like, I definitely noticed that like in hanging out with you, we kind of work in the same way where we have like we're both always doing something. We have like a burst of like energy. We're like, get this done, like get this music video done in like 2 hours, and then like we'll have all this other stuff to do, but we get it all done. And like, no, after this, you're flying somewhere else to do another music video. It's like never ending stuff that needs to be done, but
Yeah,
we get it done.
I don't think I'll be back in Texas until November, and that's when we're recording a new album for artist on Ribfest. See us for
Live on the
Cadaver.
road.
Huh?
You live on the road.
Lately, this is going to be one of the longest trips, and the thing is, like, the time that I am in Texas, as soon as I get back, I'm going to do a wedding so I can raise money, and then I'm going to go work for this production company and make like $200 a day doing video walls and rigging, and come back, and then I'm going to record an album, and then fingers crossed, if it works out, I'm going to go to Florida, and then I come back and I'm like, you know, there's possibilities that somebody will fly me out to New York so I can work on my documentary and trade for a music video. And, you know, like, I enjoy it. You know, I hope I don't burn out, but at the same time, I love doing what I do, and I love that I'm always working towards my goals. And, you know, there's a long process in my life where all I wanted to do was make other people happy, and this is one of the first times I've ever been like, no, let's work on myself.
Yeah.
You got the whole year mapped out.
Yeah.
$200 a day. Sign me up. Man.
Which is if anybody has done rigging, $200 a day is absolute shit.
That's like on a set.
Yeah, like building stages.
Dude, the hours I've done a little bit of that work in my carpentry experience, and yeah, those days it's like you'll work 16 hours, go back to a hotel, sleep for 3, go
Yeah.
back, work for 8.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
you really put the math together of like, oh, we're gonna do an 18-hour day to build this stage, and then, or like maybe it's a 12-hour day to build the stage. We'll have an hour break, and then people come in, and then once the stage is built, I'm also like the video tech guy, so I have to run everything that comes up on these video walls. And you sit down and you're like, okay, I might be making $200 a day, but realistically, I'm still making $9 an hour.
I did this show called Restaurant Impossible. Have you ever heard of it?
No,
With
what is it?
Robert Irvine. He's that like he's like some kind of like Royal Navy drill sergeant turned chef. He's like this,
Like Chef Ramsay.
big muscular guy with a crew cut, and it was a fun experience, but little high stress for me. I know some people thrive in that kind of environment and like the constant work. Like a guy like Henry Rollins, who's like, I don't sleep. I just close one eye at a time and read a book for 4 hours with one eye, then close the other eye. then I write for 9 hours. Then I work, and it's like, man, I think some people can thrive that way, but I always did do good with a lot of decompression time too. Just like playing baseball with my friends, even when I was like, just like getting real busy when I was starting touring with Mad Conductor, and I'm like, I gotta book this tour and I'm still finalizing this art. It always did me good though to be like, shelf that for a moment and just go stand in the outfield and, you know, stare at the clouds waiting for a ball to get hit to you for a few hours, you know, and then coming back. Maybe some people wouldn't enjoy that. For me, like and even now, like somebody asked me, now that I'm teaching Kung Fu plus still training Kung Fu, they're like, do you feel like it takes away from like your time to make music? But I view the things as like inseparable. Like I couldn't make music as like well as I can if I didn't have that release, that other you know, outlet for my energy.
That's kind of like what my like nonprofit work is to me. I think like we do a weekly open mic on Thursday nights, and it's like at a sober recovery center. And, like, just getting together to play with music with people is, like, my decompression time. And, like, sometimes when my life is super busy like it is now, I don't get to, like, sit down with my guitar in my room like I used to. So, like, getting together with people once a week to just play and, like, hang out and make music together and, like, have it be part of a cause is, like, that's my decompression time.
I feel like I have two forms of decompression time, because my main decompression time is, like, doing what I'm right now. Like, I'm not in Texas. I'm in PA. And getting to travel around and meet so many new people and see old friends and do stuff, that's like my decompression time from what is reality. Even though I'm out here working, you know, it's what makes me happy. But then I'll come home and I'll be gone for a month and I'll like just have like a whole day and a half of like just I'm dead, you know, like let's just sleep, let's catch up on stuff. Because, you know, like if I'm not touring and like trying to work on this documentary or like going out and seeing people and working on videos, I'm going to school full time or I'm working 3 jobs. So, you know, that little break from life every now and again, even though it's just a different way to live it, is needed. I feel like nobody... dude, if I have a 9-to-5 job and eventually in life, I think I'd die.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah,
I think like what you said about having a trade earlier is definitely relevant. Like I've been thinking a lot about that lately, about like getting into some kind of trade, because like I actually have a degree in science, so like I could work in food science doing quality control and things like that, but those jobs are always like I could do like a temp thing for like 6 months, or I could work a 9-to-5, like, and it would be everyday career type thing, and like they wouldn't understand if I needed to take 3 months off to go tour with my punk band, because they'd be like, why are you in a punk band, like we don't understand that.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I've been thinking about like doing a trade or something like that, but I mean it's possible. I'm fixing my house right now, so I'm sure I can learn anything.
Yeah, you could also what do they call it, like Airbnb a room in the house, or get a little extra income that way. But I have a friend who does kind of what you do, and I think they work for like a nonprofit and get paid for it.
Okay.
Like similar grants? Yeah, like going to like recovery centers and working with people.
Part of like I've like considered like not monetizing that, but like making it something I do for money. And I've decided that it would, like, make me hate it. Because almost everything I do, like, once somebody tells me I have to do it, and they're going to pay me for it, is the moment I don't want to do it anymore. Dude. That's why I'm so bad with, like, that's why I'm so bad with, like, working and keeping a real job. Because, like, I could do something I love for money, and then, like, the moment it becomes a job to me, I don't want it. Like, I'd rather donate my time doing that stuff than get paid for it, because, like I said, I don't know what it is, but that's just, like, a punk work ethic thing that's been ingrained in me. Like, I don't like being told what to do and where to be at what time, unless it's voluntary. Like, I volunteer my time every Thursday to do that open mic. If they told me I had to do it, I probably wouldn't want to. I'd be like, no.
Protesting outside.
No, I really feel that, because like me and McKenna have sat down like a whole bunch of times, and they're like, okay, so we're gonna do Ribfest and we're gonna start making albums. Do you think we should charge for them? And I'm like, no, we should run it like DIY sessions where we're super selective about who we work with, and we only want to work with good people. I mean, you've done recording, you know, there's those people that you record with, and it's just like, I just want to get this over with. But you know, I can comfortably say that me not actually recording anything, just sitting in, like when Escape from the Zoo or Matt Pless recorded with us, it was like some of the most fun we've ever had, because we're doing an art that we love that makes us happy, and we don't have to stress about like, will these guys pay us in the end of this? Like, is all this stuff worth it? Like, we know we're not gonna make anything off of it, but we're having a good time with it, and that's what matters. You know, there's a lot of people who are like, you need to make money off your stuff if you're gonna do stuff, and I agree with that in some part, but at the same time, if you can find happiness in it, I think that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I had a question, but it kind of like is just jarring segue. I just wanted to ask to take it back to Apes of the State, which is funny because you know how you can have like somebody will just say something and then it's only like a millisecond or such a short amount of time before the next thing is spoken, but in that like almost immeasurably small span of time, you can have a thought that like conjures an entire universe up. And it seemed like it's weird, like thoughts kind of are like they live outside of the physical world of time, you know? So when I first heard the name of your band, like I had this whole like movie play in my head, like Apes of the State. I was like, whoa, they must be like super crusty, like grindcore punks, like all like these huge dudes with like black spiky leather jackets, and they're like all like super angry. And I don't know, that's why like the name, like the image, it shot into my mind right away. And right away I was like, that's a great name. And then like I'll always, you know, go and look and try to do some research to know what I'm talking about when I do podcasts. And then I like got to your personal Facebook page and I was like, oh, her name is April.
Yeah.
Apes is like, okay. Was that always like a nickname for you?
Yeah, it was a nickname when I was like younger. Actually, I had one friend like in high school that called me that, and I hated it. I never wanted like anybody to call me that. But then when I went to college, it like became a nickname, I guess, that stuck eventually. And I was playing solo under Apes, so when I went to start a band, I was like, what should I call my band? Like, should we make a pun with apes in it? And I kind of just like asked Facebook. And I think that I ended up going with that just because it had a ring to it and like kind of almost rhymed, but it doesn't mean anything. Like, people ask me what it means and I'm like, doesn't mean anything.
Oh.
Like, Apes is my nickname and it doesn't have any meaning.
I think that's the best.
And I feel like I just crushed your image in your head.
I still see what it means though, like we're all just apes of the state.
We can have like you know how like Kiss has the miniature Kiss band?
Yeah.
We can just do that. It'll be an Apes of the State cover band, and we'll actually just hire apes.
Yeah, apes are incredible, man. I saw a few monkeys in the wild for the first time in my life. My girlfriend and I just got back from Colombia, and we went to this nature reserve called Parque Tayrona, which is like a jungle that you walk through and it leads to this ocean. And it was awesome, but it was like a hike. I mean, we were like exhausted when we got back and walking single file with all these people because the trail gets real narrow, and everybody just wanted to get out of there and get, you know, cleaned up and get drink of water or whatever. And then we hear like, it's like, what? It's like, there's little monkeys in the tree. And it's like, oh, and with all these people who we didn't know, we just all had like this moment looking up, like watching these little monkeys just like, wow. They're like, it was so incredible.
Yeah.
Just watching them jump from branch to branch that would have just snapped under, you know, like you could just break it with one arm, and they're like swinging 40 feet in the sky from it. It's pretty amazing. But I use that as, I have a line that I say, we're just a bunch of apes on a big ball of water.
Yeah.
It's from a song called, no, it's not called Mechanical. It's on an album called Mechanical Claw. The song's called Troubles in the Sewer. But
it's like the most 80s song I've heard in a while.
Troubles in the Sewer.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because it's stolen from something that I misheard as a kid in the Billy Joel song "We Didn't Start the Fire."
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Trouble in the Suez." The Suez Canal. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know about that. And I always thought that he said "troubles in the sewer," and I was like, "That's cool." So I guess I did come
That's
up with it.
my basement right now.
Really did.
Yeah.
Troubles in the sewer.
Plumbing is quite shitty.
Yeah. That's what I said to Brandon on the way here. I was like,
stinks.
plumbing problems are really shitty.
But people think we're so advanced and evolved because we've got iPhone 8. But I'm like looking around and we're still like, we have people who don't understand like that skin tone isn't a grounds to hate someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, you think you're so evolved. You think you're so smart. You can't even get along with one another. Like, we're beneath apes. The apes live in harmony, jumping from tree to tree. We fucking kill each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This podcast just took a dark turn.
Yeah.
It's okay.
One of the biggest things I think like that helped me stay sober was like learning that like realizing that I didn't know anything. Like I didn't know shit. Like I thought I knew everything, and like it ended with me in rehab. So I guess I didn't know that very good. I didn't know very well. So I just kind of like decided that I didn't know anything and was going to take advice.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I can relate to that too. We're not so different, you and I. I always say the smarter that I get is because the dumber I realize I am. You know what I mean? Like, listen to that sentence. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I've been speaking English for 32 years, still having trouble with it. But it's like that's, you know, when you're 14, you know everything.
Yeah.
You're the smartest person in the world, you know? Then when you're 21, you're like, oh shit, maybe I don't know everything. Then when you're 30, you're like, I don't know shit. You know? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
It's a constant spiral of lacking confidence.
Yeah, but in that is like you also just realize the chaos of life and the randomness of it. Like, and that's why it is just do what you love, trust it, it'll work out one way or another. Or it won't, and in the end, that doesn't really matter.
Still be breathing.
Yeah. We're all humans anyways.
Yeah.
And so I thought, like, back to the band name, I like envisioned very like politically driven music. It's all very emotional, very like a lot of relationship based stuff.
Yep.
And
I pretty much wrote an album about how I got dumped twice.
We passed by
in
her
Lancaster
store.
City. Yeah.
Man.
Can I talk?
Well, those are like the. I mean, I have like another album that's on my Bandcamp that kind of sucks. That was like I wrote when I first got out of rehab, and like I'm talking about like those kind of problems on that album, and then. Like, when she put down drugs, like, a good substitution for that is relationships. So, like, that became what my problem was the next year. So, like, that's, like, what I was writing about then. And now I have, like, different set of problems, and I'll be writing a different, you know, set of songs about...
My house is all fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. And I've already been thinking
Sewage
about
is all backed up.
Yeah. I've already been thinking about the songs that are going to come out of this phase. But
I'm excited.
Dude, you should write about that, because, like... It's all about what people relate to, and I feel like as your fans will like grow with you, and especially with you being so honest with your lyrics and your music, like you'll keep those fans by staying honest, but not by like trying to like keep like writing about the same thing, but writing about like what are the new modern problems you're facing, and you're probably a lot more like your fans than you would ever realize, you know? I think that's why I have so few fans, because my music's just too weird. No one can relate to it. But they're out there. They're just widespread. I need to, like, instead of touring, I need to, like, send a mega bus around and pick them all up and bring them to, like, bring them to me. You know what I mean? Do one show rather than, like, traveling here to play
like
to
a
20
rainbow
people,
gathering.
here to play to 20. Yeah, kind of like that, gathering the Juggalos I just did. That seemed to turn out pretty chill. Everybody was kind of like hoping that they would like clash and murder all the Trump supporters, but from what I read, that was the exact opposite of what they went there to do, because what it actually was a protest of them being labeled as a gang by the FBI. So them going there and being violent would have had the exact opposite effect.
Yeah, it
They'd
would
be
hurt
like,
their cause.
oh, these dudes are totally a gang. Like, that was a good choice.
They're totally
labeling them as
thugs.
such.
It's like predominantly white group that drinks Faygo and puts on face paint. Obviously thugs.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what Faygo was. Like in that Eminem line, he's like, "I'd like to treat you to a Faygo and a slice of pizza."
I think
I was like, I always thought he said a bagel and a slice of pizza, and I'm like, who eats like a pizza bagel? Yeah, but I don't know, like eat a bagel and then be like, I could go for a slice of pizza right now.
I think we were in Colorado in a know-nothing town, like trying to get from one place to the other, and we stopped at a store because we wanted to use the restroom, and they had a Faygo machine, and it was the
Like
coolest
a fountain soda machine.
No, like you put your 25 cents in. And you,
like a soda.
yeah,
soda
but
can
it was
machine.
Faygo.
Wow.
And
They had
actually,
that in Colorado?
no, I think I remember now. We were going up to Planet X Fest for when I did that documentary.
Yeah, Rust Belt.
it
That
was
makes
Rust Belt
sense that
area.
there would be a Faygo machine in that area of the country.
But I'd
In the
never seen that
Midwest.
before. It was kind of
Yeah.
like when we went to Lowe's and I saw that my first Amish couple. I was like, whoa! And then I was like, oh shit.
Were they Amish or Mennonite?
They were Mennonite. I told him the difference.
What is the difference?
Mennonite are like the less like extreme, not extreme. I wouldn't label. I guess Amish people are kind of extreme.
Like
They're
the
not
rudest-
religious extremists as much as they live out there. They're probably the most punk religion. I think they live outside the grid. You know, that's
Word,
that's
yeah.
pretty punk. Mennonites are just like a more chilled out version. They are more involved in society. They can drive cars. The women still dress traditional in like the bonnets. It's a different type of bonnet. And the men just kind of wear like flannel shirts. They don't like
And
they use
suspenders.
electricity. They have cell phones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They
What's
just
with the chin strap? Like, why do they shave their mustache only?
they have. If you're married and you're Amish, you have to have a beard. That's your wedding ring, basically. If you're a man, you have a beard. So if you see a single Amish man, they would have no beard.
That today is still the meanest thing I think I've ever done.
Shave your beard or be Amish or
No, like when
be
I saw the
shocked by
couple,
it, yeah.
I like we were in the middle of Lowe's waiting for this vanity, and they came through the double doors, and I just loudly went, "Wow!"
I mean,
I mean, it's shocking. When I first came here, I didn't realize that they lived like you could be driving through southern Lancaster County and you'll drive past a house that's like a normal ass American family, and then the next house is an Amish family, and there's no power lines go into the house, and they have a buggy in the driveway. They just are, and like I got stuck in traffic behind a buggy, and I was like, what the fuck? They're just out on the street. Like I thought they all lived together in a certain area, like not a compound, but like more like
Kind of like how America does with the Native Americans.
yeah, and not like a reservation, but something similar to that. And then like I learned that they're kind of just around, and they're like not fully integrated, but they're like just everybody. They're your neighbors. So like I got used to it, but it's definitely something that if you're not from this area, you would like be shocked by.
I feel bad looking back at it because that's probably the closest thing I've ever been to racist. But I think the worst thing that happened though is I didn't say sorry. Like we just left.
Oh, they probably would have been more offended if you said sorry.
I hope they
Been
didn't
like
hear me.
for what?
because maybe they didn't even know it. They might have just turned around and been like, "Is there a bird in the store?" Like,
Yeah.
I hope so.
you know. I guess like I was gonna say in your defense, like it is like kind of weird that they dress that way, but then I realized I think the way that the reason they wear those clothes is because they make them all themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it could
And,
be like
those are just the patterns they have, the fabric they have. I mean, I don't know. Anytime you get into like force someone to dress a certain way because of a like maybe not imaginary guy who lives in the sky, I'll always kind of question the legitimacy of that. And it seems like the women have to wear this, but the guys don't. Or the guys do. It's kind of like, well, why? You
It's
know,
very
I
traditional
question
and
it.
Yeah,
outdated.
Outdated is the
Yeah.
exact
it's
word
kind of
for
like
it.
like if a kid wants to dress like a punk, wearing patches and stuff, and like somebody who's a society norm would like disapprove of it. I feel like it's kind of similar.
Yeah. I mean, they could go on Rumspringa and dress like a punk or whatever they want to do,
Are there any Amish punks?
Dude, if there was an
I've
Amish
never
punk
met
band-
one. I feel like out of all of the punk bands, we would be the one to meet Amish fans.
Yeah.
But we haven't yet. I don't
There was that
think we have.
motorcyclist. I mean, it's not Amish, but it was weird. You were like that older motorcycle bro.
Oh, yeah, that old dude. Oh, yeah, he wasn't Amish. Yeah, I'm still waiting for them to start coming to our house shows and be like, on the Rumspringa. We wanted to play a Rumspringa party for a while. I heard they're lit.
What is it?
Rumspringa. That's when they're okay. So they.
Oh, is that when they leave?
When they're like 16, and they could do it for as long as they want. They could be part of society and like use electricity, dress however they want, for as long as they want. But if they choose to stay that way, they're
like disowned.
Their family doesn't talk to them anymore. They're basically shunned by by their family. So most of them end up going back to the religion and stuff like that.
I mean, how many families live that same way without even realizing it?
Yeah,
I know kids get disowned for not following the standard protocol of society.
It's a huge problem with queer people a lot of places in America. I grew up in New York City. If you come out as gay in New York City, there's like friggin' 300 people in your high school that are also gay, so it's like no big deal. But if you come out as gay in like some like town in the middle of the in the Midwest, or even Lancaster, because it's so different there than where I grew up. Like that could change your life in a terrible way.
Yeah.
Your family can disown you. Your entire community, which is based off your religion, can disown you, and then you're just alone. And a lot of people are homeless because of it. Like there's a lot of like homeless, like transient queer youth.
Yeah, and like living in Texas, it's so rampant. Like my sisters came out that she was lesbian and she was into women, and she, it was really hard for some of the people in my family to accept that. And I remember she came up to me like 8 months later and she was like, you're the only person who treats me differently or treats me the same. Everyone else just looks at me differently, like I'm a parasite or something like that. And I'm like, well, that just comes down to people's beliefs, And I feel like if I was raised any differently than I was, so I grew up and my parents got divorced at a really young age, and my mom started dating a black man named Clint, who I look up to as a father sometimes. And, that was a big thing when it came into, like, early exploring race. And then with my sister being gay, and then, like, my adoptive mom is actually a transitioning woman. All of those things at an early age, a lot of people, I feel like, don't get to experience that. And so since it's, like, weird to them or they don't know how to process it, like, I don't think that anyone's born hateful, But it all comes down to, like, what you've seen and what you can accept. And, everybody is a human to me.
Yeah. I think in the younger generations are becoming more and more tolerant, and, like, things that people consider like to be not that normal are probably far more normal than society has allowed them to be. So like once it like people become more and more tolerant, you might find out that everything is like all even. Like there's an equal number of people that are into this, equal number of people that feel this way, equal number of people. But like right now there's like basically fucking two things you can be, like. Or I can't even imagine what life would have been like for those people when my grandparents were my age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It must have been a fucking nightmare. I mean, that's like, you're talking even pre-civil rights movement.
Yeah, even the most basic thing of like having tattoos.
Yeah.
Is like Dan's grandma's Mennonite, and like, I don't think she likes me because I have tattoos, But like, that's never something I've encountered in life aside from that. But like, it's so normal for people to have tattoos now, and like especially among like our age group.
Oh yeah.
It's like who cares? Like, that's like not even a thought. But like when my parents were growing up and like our grandparents were growing up, that was like, a sign that you were a criminal or like somebody bad, and like you're not going to get a job because of it or something.
I think at a time it probably was though. It was like only like, traveling drifters and motorcycle dope smokers had tattoos, but then it's like, well, those people are cool. Yeah. I'd like to be a little more like them. I like how that looks. But then even like, that might be like the American society version of what tattoos were. But then I'm thinking now, if you go out to like other islands and find indigenous people always into tattooing.
Yeah, that's like a rite of passage for like youth and things like that.
And I feel like as a society, it's going very slow, but we're moving towards the right direction. Like where April lives in Lancaster, they had these signs everywhere that were in two different languages. One was Arabic, and I'm guessing one was Spanish. But it said something along the lines of like, "You're my neighbor," and "You're welcome," or something like that. And that's like cool. Seeing that being from Texas. And, you know, like, I live in the north side of Houston, which is a little bit more hick, if you want to say it. But, you know, you got these kids who will have their big-ass trucks, and they'll have the Confederate flag just waving through it. And some of the dumbasses will have Confederate flags next to the regular state flags. And just blatant racism. And, like, you know, like, sometimes you'll, like, walk through a coffee shop, and you'll literally just become angered at, like, how mean people can be. And, you know, it's really refreshing to go into when I went to April's neighborhood, and I saw all these signs that were so welcoming to people of Muslim descent and other things. And it just reminds me of, like, when I was working at a Starbucks just to raise money for Punk with a Camera and get new gear and do stuff. There was a little girl who was like 10 years old, and I was like really busy, and I was trying to put everything together, and I took it out of my time to be like, hey, are you okay? Are you cool? Like, you're good? And she was like, yeah, I'm fine. And she left and came back later and gave me a note, and it had $10 in it. And she was like,
wow.
You're the first person that has made me feel welcome. Like, my brother gave me this $10. Like, you know, I think you deserve it. And she signed a guy with the cool hair. And I tacked that $10 to the wall in that note, and it just reminds me of, awesome. Like, not everyone can be terrible, you know? Like, we can work together and have everyone feel welcome. And I feel like any show that I put together, anything that I do, I always want everyone to feel like they belong.
I'm going to plug this because you mentioned those signs. The reason we have those around is because Lancaster is the, per capita, we take in the most refugees out of any city in the United States.
Wow. Is it a sanctuary city?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's beautiful.
And for that to happen in the middle of Amish country in a very, like, conservative Christian county, the city itself of Lancaster is really liberal. But, that shows progress, I think, in my opinion. That, like, the world is moving towards a better direction.
Oh, yeah. Well, makes me feel embarrassed. Like, I'm sorry if you saw this fucking idiot's flag waving.
Oh, I didn't see it. Did he have a Confederate flag or something?
Yeah, so I put a sign in my yard with a big X around a Confederate flag to protest him. So it's kind of a weird thing with me because it's like I would just go yank it off, and maybe when I was a teenager I would have, but part of me knows he's probably waiting behind the door with a shotgun. But yeah, it's embarrassing and it's frustrating to come home and see it every day. And you're talking about Texas. Yeah. This is Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We're way up north.
We're Pennsylvania is the Mason-Dixon line. It's where Confederate flags did not wave until they were brought back into use by the KKK during the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah.
It's a symbol of racism here, and I don't fucking, like, you can't tell me another way about it. But it's almost kind of like, you know, if you went and yanked it off, the next day there would just be 2 Confederate flags.
Yeah.
Or then you're the criminal. But then it kind of goes to, like, back to what, like, society and what the police are really there for. This flag pisses everybody off. There's one guy who has one. But if I went and took it, then I'm the criminal. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the law in that side really protects the real offender, you know? So it's a weird thing. And I guess, like, I could probably omit this part from the podcast, but...
No, I think it really should be in there. Because
I mean, I just wanted to say to y'all, because you're talking about, like, Lancaster is the #1 refuge, and you're telling me your beautiful story, and I'm like, yeah, my neighbor's a fucking white supremacist.
Oh, don't worry about it.
So people post that meme online. They're like, this world is far more tolerant than the news would let you believe. Look out the window and see the harmony between your neighbors. And I'm like, what fucking block do you live on, dog?
Yeah.
This is Mach Chung Street. We got fucking real white supremacists here, motherfucker. And there was, dude, don't get me wrong. There was one dude with the Confederate flag, and now I'm getting fired up. There's about 9 people with Trump signs. Yeah. Okay, so, like, to me, they're equal. They're not any different. I see, and it might, like, one of those things that you hold up, the view. What do they call those things? You click them, and the little disc changes, and you see the picture.
I have no idea.
They were red.
When I was a little kid,
those were badass,
kaleidoscopes,
right?
something like
that.
Not
a kaleidoscope, but
they were along that line.
It was probably inspired by the kaleidoscope. You slid the little disc in,
you could see the new images,
and you click.
Yeah,
dude, some of those, it was kind of spooky. Like when you look through that lens, it was kind of like looking into another dimension.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah.
They were kind of 3-dimensional too. Yeah. I remember somebody had one with like Snow White or some like Disney witch that was just so scary to me. And I remember I had to click by it real quick you know. But that's what I see, like Nazi flag, Trump sign, and your red hat in the video threw me off too.
Really?
Dude, Trump, he ruined red hats for everybody.
Oh, did he? Oh, that, you know what that is? It's at a lumber yard near Lancaster.
And it's a cool
they
hat.
They give out free hats.
It's a cool hat, and you look cool with the red hat. But like, I see it, and I'm like, and I'm like, of course I know, like a singer in a folk punk band isn't gonna be wearing a Trump hat, but it's just like another fucking thing that guy ruined. But it's definitely something we're dealing with, and I see one a day on average. Confederate flag license plate. I had a cool moment. I was stuck in traffic, and I'm not afraid of anybody. I used to give people the finger, but then I realized that's not really my style. Like, if you listen to my hip-hop lyrics, I'm never vulgar. I don't feel comfortable being... I curse a lot when I'm talking to y'all and talking to my friends.
Yeah.
But when I have time to, like, think about what I'm doing, I don't really... I don't know. It's like... I know that all language is equal, and the word fuck is no different than the word duck. It's just describing something or a name for something. But... the way that our like world is set up, our ears spark when we hear these certain words. But still, too, I guess I do kind of see, like, giving someone the finger is like obscene, maybe in a way.
Yeah.
So I give them the thumbs down now. You know, I'll fucking honk
like,
and give a thumbs down. It's disapproval.
I'm not mad at you, but I'm greatly disappointed.
Yes, that's even worse.
I'm disappointed.
That's like your grandma. When your grandma's upset with you, your grandma wouldn't give you the finger. She would give you the thumbs down.
Exactly.
And that hurts worse. It hurts your
worse.
soul.
The finger, you kind of like, you turn to concrete and like that hate just bounces off you. The thumbs down will hit you. It'll penetrate the heart.
I mean, it elicits
takes
like
you a second to think about it.
That's like communication 101. I feel like when you give anger into the world, people respond to you with anger. So if like you're gonna flip somebody off and scream at them, like they're just gonna go into a defense mode automatically and start doing that back.
Yeah.
You give the disapproval. Like what can you really say to that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like you just gave me a thumbs down. Like, I'm sorry.
It's like that guy on Facebook who shares that really messed up meme, and you're like, do I hit the anger rec? Do I start an argument?
Right. Yeah, there's no dislike, but yeah,
just
this
do
dude,
the disappointing, like the
I
sad
will not
react.
laugh at this.
They experimented, I think, with the dislike, but it didn't last long. It was there for like a day, and then it was gone.
Where was I? God damn.
Maybe that didn't happen. That might have been a dream.
I wish it happened. The angry react is the closest thing I'll get to disapproving from all these people.
This was cool though, because this dude was coming toward me, and I saw, and he was driving like a fucking like Honda sedan or something.
Nice.
And he had a Confederate flag on the front, and I'm stuck in dead traffic, and he's moving toward me, and we're on a bridge, and I just start lacing into the horn and hold the thumb out like that. And the guy was just like, "Argh," all like disgruntled, drove past me. And then I heard a honk from behind me, and I looked back, and there's a thumb out the window, and it was a black dude giving me the thumbs up, and he was laughing, he was cracking up. He's like, yeah, man. And I was like, holy shit, dude. Like in my mind, all this played out. I was like, I didn't even realize, I wasn't like doing it because I realized there was somebody behind me who I had to stand up for. But then I'm like thinking about it, like, what if I hadn't been there and this dude just would have had to see that? And I'm like, sometimes I'm not there, and this dude is subjected to that. It makes me angry. How does it make him feel?
Yeah. And I feel like any situation, if it's like somebody being transphobic, someone being homophobic, someone being like sexually abusive to women, like any time that there's not action taken, that it's, it's just gonna get worse. And I feel like
unchecked.
Like whether it's a call out or something actually fully completely happens, I think that really makes a difference, and it really resonates with people. If you're in a band and you play a show with if like someone's on your bill that like has a history of sexual abuse with women or is known to be homophobic, if you can either quit that show or you can tell them that they can't play because everyone's not comfortable with that, then you're part of the problem. If you don't do something against it, that these people can still thrive like that, then that is a huge issue.
Runs rampant. Yeah.
Call out hour with Brandon.
Well, I think one thing, like, to kind of summarize all that, like, the punk scene has been the one place that is like really leading the way in acceptance and tolerance. And I know there are a lot of like dicks who come in and infiltrate, but honestly, those are the people who are fucking punks for 2 years, then they go more toward the skinhead look, and then they just become cops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And even then, like, I'm actually friends with a lot of skinheads, and it sometimes that
Well,
word
there's
gets
cool
a bad...
skins, don't get me wrong, but people take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I want to look scary.
Yeah.
You know, some bullshit.
Like the overly aggressive, like hardcore dudes.
Hardcore
that
skins.
got into hardcore music because it was a way to beat people up
Well,
without
that
getting in trouble
pisses
for
me
it.
off
Yeah.
to no end.
And now they're just gym bros.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And, you
step
know...
into an octagon if you got that kind of
Yeah.
aggression. Hit somebody who's gonna hit you back harder than you could, dude.
Yeah.
And there's actually like a really huge reason why I connect with folk punk, because it's one of the very few inclusive scenes that is like accepting to trans folk, that's accepting to gay. And you know, like I'm a straight white male in America. There should be no reason why I should have to worry about these things, but I always want to be in a situation where like anyone that could be accepted should be. And you know, you sit in the punk scene, and I'll tell people all the time, I'm like, man, I hate punk rock. And they're like, you're punk with a camera, more like poser with a camera. I'm like, yeah, but I never want to be anywhere where somebody doesn't feel welcome. If you have a show set up and someone's like, oh, I can't be there, this person's gonna play, or you feel like anybody should be boycotted just because of, you know, anything, that's the difference. And that's why I really connect with folk punk, because it's for the most part there are bad people, and it's been proven this year alone. But for the most part, if there are bad people, they're always called out. There's always action taken place to it, and it's a lot more welcoming, because you know there's a lot of people in the punk scene that do a lot of shitty things and don't, you know, they get away with it.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference.
Yeah. What is your demographic like of people? Like, do you have a lot of punks coming to your show, or do you feel you have people that like look more mainstream coming out?
We have like a weird mix because I feel like we kind of have like, we do appeal to like the punk kids, but then we also have like these like older people that like folk music that like us, because we're
Oh yeah,
still
some
like
of the best bluegrass stuff out there.
exactly, it's folk music. You know, they like the sound, but it's done in a way that they've never heard, and maybe they never heard folk punk music before, so they don't know any other bands like that. So like they like us. And then there's like normies that like just normal ass people that like our music because it's poppy, you know, and like anything can get stuck in your head if it's poppy enough. So like we have a good mix, I would say.
The next one.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it gets stuck in your head then.
I think that's cool though. It goes back to like having people accepted, you know.
Yeah, I mean we've had children at our shows, and we've had like really old people, like 70. I think one of the weirdest
That's
shows we
awesome.
played was in Moab, Utah. We played a show to like every single age range in one show. It was
That's
like
cool.
there was like an infant there, and there was like an 80-year-old man there that was like, he was like the first guy to show up, and we were all nervous. We were like, this is gonna be weird.
Yeah.
But then like everybody else showed up in between. There was like our punk crew there. There was like, you know, just like people that filtered in. So
Yeah,
and they all
That's awesome.
dug
The
it.
harmony.
Yeah.
That's a yeah.
And your music is a little more like welcoming than some of the other folk, growly, screamy folk punk, like real, like aggressive, angry lyric folk punk. You know,
Yeah.
We the Heathens.
you're more
I
on
love
like
that
the like come join us for a concert.
Yeah.
Kumbaya. What was that dude who like has been doing reaction videos? He goes to the Matt Pless song. He's like, oh, I could hear this around the fire.
That campfire song.
And I love bluegrass too. It's like I stumbled saying this, and it's tough for me to explain Mad Conductor on the spot, like in one sentence. And I was like trying to think of all the genres of music that I like, but it really doesn't matter to list because I really like a lot of everything. And you know, it is all there. You can hear like bluegrass from 50 years ago, African funk and jazz, or whatever, like just like every type of music you could ever imagine. One thing about the bluegrass though that's a little like tough for me is the singing style.
I don't like it either.
You know?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that people are doing like more punk and like more modern style singing with it and instrumental stuff. Because when I'm like, I hear the beginning of a bluegrass song, I'm like, oh, this is cool.
This
and
is
the guy's
ripping.
like, hey! And I'm like, whoa, no, not gonna work.
That's my exact same gripe with bluegrass.
And they sing
that's
about
why
like
I love how it
cupcakes
sounds.
and shit.
Yeah,
they
that's
sing
why.
about weird like birds like
That's
stealing
why like
pies off the windowsill.
I want to try to take that sound and like make it like
modernized.
just like have me yelling instead of that shit. Like I don't know.
Modernized
Yeah.
for sure.
I think Larry and his Flask does a good job of that.
Who?
Larry and his Flask.
Oh yeah, they're so fucking good. But yeah, they do that for sure. If you've never heard them, you should listen to them.
That's folk punk.
Yeah.
I guess.
I didn't realize how much of this stuff there was, and it's amazing to me, and like in a way it kind of makes me feel like an old man in a new world who doesn't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm like, but wait, I've got a Marshall tube amp, and people are like, dude, we don't give a fuck.
No, that's not cool anymore. It's all about the banjos.
I'm like, yo, I got a Nord Electro 4, you guys. Want to come over and play Atari? They're like, no, fuck you, man. But it's cool to see, because I don't think it's a coincidence that in this technology-controlled world, that like the response has been, well, fuck that. We're just going to go back to simple vibrations.
Yeah.
Like a string. Give me one string. I'll fucking tie it to something, to a tree root and a fucking, whatever, a branch, and just pluck it. And
It's craving authenticity. That's the reason, like, if you look into the history of bluegrass, it had a revival during the 60s and 70s because of that reason. Because that was like a generation that was like craving authenticity and craving, like, it was a struggle. It was like so I think that's like something that with like the rise of like folk punk, I don't want to say it's in the mainstream, but like in popularity, I think that's like part of why it's happening, because our generation is angry and we're craving something authentic,
Yeah.
We like craft things.
I mean,
we like craft coffee and craft beer, and we like
love craft.
and we like folk
Hell yeah.
punk.
And I feel it all the
Organic
time because
food.
like, I live in Houston, and there's a fucking like 3 shows a day, and all of these shows I can almost categorize them into things like dad punk. And
Dad punk?
Dad
Yeah.
punk.
That's like punk bands of like dads, or like older.
So yeah, one of my favorite categorizations of like overused punk rock music is dad punk, and it's these guys who usually have children, and they run their scenes, and they go through and they play their usually their 4-piece bands, and they play like every weekend, but they've got such an attitude about them. It's amazing. Like, it's great that they have all this stuff, but at the same time, like, they fall into this category of like, is it a dad punk show? Okay.
I know what you mean, for sure. Yeah, there's those bands that are just like still touring. The guys must be in their like 50s, even older.
They always play some form of NoFX cover or some band of that era.
Yep.
Are there subgenres within folk punk?
Yep.
There
Oh,
must be, right?
For sure.
There's a lot with... I feel like there's a lot of subgenres when it comes... Like, my favorite is queer. Anything that's feminist, queer, or trans. The great example is my friends in She, Her, Hers. I'm a straight white male, and they sing about their problems, and you just really connect with it even if you're not queer, and it's just so good, the writing style, and it's still folk punk, but what
is
they
it
talk about is
musically different, or
I would say, like, there's kind of 2 ways you could put it. You could put the musical difference, but also like the lyrical content difference. Like, there's obviously like very political folk punk bands.
Yeah.
There's I would break it down where there's like the crusty stuff that's like Days and Days, like, and they kind of spawned a whole like different
Weasel baby.
Yeah, like you say,
That's
like
pretty good.
the singing style is
I'm
like
great at doing
that,
their voices.
the lyrical content, and then there's like the emotional spectrum, which is like I feel like my band falls under, because that's like where I take my influence from, and that's like the singer songwriter, like Paul Baraboo comes to mind. He's more of like a poet. And like
beautiful.
a sad guy with a guitar kind of thing.
Shitty 3 chords, but the fucking lyrics will melt your heart.
Yeah, and then there's like another section of it that's like the weird, like very good musicians that just don't fucking fit in, and they happen to be punk kids, and they're playing like I'm thinking like Holy Locust and like Cousin Boneless. Like, there's such good musicians, and their music you can't really categorize it in any like it's not crusty and it's not emotional, but it's like some kind of like circus music, like and it's very good, like musically talented stuff that is just completely different. And then there's like things that come off of like each one of those branches to me, and then there's like people that mix all of it. But like that's like what I consider to be like the genres of folk punk, I guess.
And it's usually all like really young people throwing their emotions out there, whether it's political, whether it's like what's going through their heart, and it's all. There's a lot of bad ones, but there's a lot of good ones too, and it just, you listen to punk rock and you get into it, And a lot of people they get upset with me because I don't tell too many people about like the bands I've never heard of in my life, but it's just because they just fall under this category that they're so overplayed. And so it's like I remember I was with Tommy from New Bandits when we were doing the thing, and he had a Crash shirt on. I'm like, I've never listened to Crash. But it comes down to the fact that I've never listened to Crash because I've been so like involved with folk punk that I haven't had the time to listen to Crash.
To be honest with you, I haven't either, but somebody told me that they don't sound how you think they would. Somebody said they sound more like almost like a post-punk, like gothy kind of band. Yeah. I assumed it was crust punk. Have you heard Crash? No. That's crazy.
I've heard covers of them done by folk punk bands. 3 punks in one room, never heard Crash. People are probably fucking shaking their head.
Hey, you might as well call me poser with camera.
You could do like folk punk where you play like folk music with punk lyrics, or you could do folk punk where you play like punk, like you're playing punk music acoustically. Like there's different ways you could go about it.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like I fall towards like, I don't know, maybe in between both of those, but
best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I can think about is that song "Cats and Heat."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Forgot to turn the
AC
on.
You like it?
Yeah. You like it?
It's our like people either really like or really hate
funny.
that one.
I like the lyrics.
I told April, I was like, your album is one of those albums I can listen to all the time, but I always skip that album. She's like, we never put it on our set list, but everyone asks for it. I'm like,
yeah, it's one of those songs that whenever we ask if somebody wants to hear a song live, they always say that one. Like every time.
Wow.
Every single time somebody requests that song. And it doesn't make any sense because if you go on like our Spotify, it's the song that has like the least plays.
Whoa. Yeah. Interesting.
It's probably because someone downloaded it and they just like listen to it on repeat. Screw your Spotify statistics. Yeah, it's actually your number one hit.
Usually that stuff is pretty accurate, pretty reliable. Uh-huh. Like I know all the songs that have the most views and downloads for us are the ones that people call out to hear.
Yeah.
You know?
That's just the only one that isn't like that.
Yeah. Interesting. So what's on the horizon for Apes of the State?
We're saving right now. Well, we pretty much have the money saved up to make a new album, and we have the material written. So
oh, really?
It's just working on. We're gonna record it like we did the other album live. So we just need to spend like a month playing all the time, practicing. It's pretty much what we did the first time.
You just come out to Houston.
Practicing a lot, and then going in the studio and doing it. So that's like what we've been needing to do for a while, but like with all this stuff with the house getting in the way and life showing up, it's like it prevents that. So I don't know when we're gonna get recorded. Maybe this winter.
Right on. That's a good time to do it, and then drop it in the spring.
Yeah.
Start playing shows again in the summer. Pretty much the game plan. I'm like, yeah, record a lot of music this fall and winter, and I'm like, oh, dude, we're already like well into the fall. I haven't done anything. Yeah. But whenever y'all are at that stage and it's starting to come out, it'd be awesome to get the whole band over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Believe it, come play.
Do a show too, for sure. Yeah. I don't know if like y'all are. I'm thinking about booking like a show more around Christmas time. I don't know if that would be.
Yeah, we'll probably be ready for that.
Cool. Well, yeah. Well, we don't have to decide.
Hopefully, my house isn't completely fucked at that point because I'm gonna freeze to death if it is.
Yeah.
It's already pretty chilly downstairs.
Yeah.
Space, not a space heater, a heating pad. This is one dude's trick. He's like, I just put a heating pad under my jacket. He's like, I don't even need heat in the house. It's pretty clever.
That's the most DIY thing I've heard in my life. And I crave off that shit.